I couldn't process what just happened. The car moved forward, but my mind was stuck on the moment he reached under his seat. What had he been grabbing? A weapon? Zip ties? My brain spun through every horror story I'd ever read, every crime podcast I'd listened to late at night. Suddenly, I was the headline. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust any of this. But I couldn't jump from a moving car, not in the middle of these woods. I looked out the window, hoping desperately, hoping to see a break in the trees, a house, a mailbox, any sign of life. But there was nothing, just miles of shadows and silence. Where are we going? I demanded. He didn't answer. I felt my voice rising. I said, "Where are we going?" He exhaled slowly. "I'm taking you home." Just had to think for a second. Think? Think about what? I realized then I was crying. Not loud, just quiet tears running down my face, unnoticed by him, but burning on my skin. My fingers tightened around my phone, still useless. No signal. No help. Then, as suddenly, as the detour began, we reached a clearing. It opened like a mouth wide, abrupt. A dead end, almost. The trees stopped, and we rolled onto a patch of flat dirt surrounded by silence, so heavy it pressed into my chest. He turned the engine off again. I braced myself, ready to scream, to fight, to do whatever it took. But he didn't move. He stared out into the clearing, and then he started shaking, not violently, just small tremors, like something cold had crept under his skin. He whispered, almost to himself, "I shouldn't have come back here." I stayed silent, frozen. He looked back at me. "I used to come out here with my brother, a long time ago, before he disappeared." That stopped me. "What?" I whispered. He nodded slowly. "We'd ride out here, play near the creek. One day, he didn't come back. Police searched for days. Never found anything. They said maybe he ran away, but I know better." My breath hitched. "Why? Why are you bringing me here?" He swallowed hard. "I don't know. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Tonight felt like the night. Like maybe if I came back, I'd understand." I couldn't tell if he was breaking down or setting me up. His voice was trembling now, his eyes distant, haunted. "I don't even know why I picked up your ride," he continued. "I was going offline. Just one last trip, I thought." My mind screamed for action, for escape. But I also realized maybe this man was broken. Maybe he was lost in a place so deep that logic couldn't pull him out. But I still didn't trust him. "Look," I said, trying to sound calm. "Why don't we just leave? Go back. You can drop me off." "You don't have to be here." He stared out the windshield again. Then, slowly, he nodded without a word. He started the car. We turned around, back down the same dirt path. The trees felt tighter now, more oppressive. The silence louder. I didn't speak. Neither did he. It took 15 minutes before we hit asphalt again. When we reached the edge of the forest, my phone buzzed. Signal. Returned. A flood of notifications hit all at once. Missed calls. Failed messages. A reply from my roommate. "WTF? Are you okay?" Kyle pulled up to a gas station without asking. Parked. Hands still on the wheel. "I'm sorry," he said. Quietly. "For everything." I stared at him. "Why did you do it?" I asked. "Why scare me like that?" He shook his head. "I didn't mean to. Sometimes it feels like the only way to not be alone is to bring someone else into your memories. Even if it's a stranger." I didn't have words. I got out, walked straight into the gas station, asked the cashier to call me another ride. When I looked back, the silver Camry was gone. No taillights, no engine hum, just GOE. I got home. An hour later, still shaking, The next morning, I tried reporting him through the app, but the ride wasn't there. It never showed up in my history. Got no record of it. Got no driver named Kyle. Got no silver. Camry. It was like it never happened. Except for one thing. My phone had saved one photo from that night. A blurry, accidental shot I must have taken while clutching. It too tight. It showed trees, headlights, and a man standing outside the car. Not Kyle, not me. Just standing there, looking straight at the camera. And I don't know what terrifies me more, the ride that shouldn't exist, or the fact that he was never supposed to be there. Asterisk, I couldn't process what just happened. The car moved forward, but my mind was stuck on the moment he reached under his seat. What had he been grabbing? A weapon? Zip ties? My brain spun through every horror story I'd ever read, every crime podcast I'd listened to late at night. Suddenly, I was the headline. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust any of this. But I couldn't jump from a moving car, not in the middle of these woods. I looked out the window, desperately hoping to see a break in the trees, a house, a mailbox, any sign of life. But there was nothing, just miles of shadows and silence. Where are we going? I demanded. He didn't answer. I felt my voice rising. I said, "Where are we going?" He exhaled slowly. "I'm taking you home." Just had to think for a second. Think? Think about what? I realized that I was crying. Not loud, just quiet tears running down my face, unnoticed by him, but burning on my skin. My fingers tightened around my phone, still useless. No signal. No help. Then, as suddenly, as the detour began, we reached a clearing. It opened like a mouth wide, abrupt. A dead end, almost. The trees stopped, and we rolled onto a patch of flat dirt surrounded by silence, so heavy it pressed into my chest. He turned the engine off again. I braced myself, ready to scream, to fight, to do whatever it took. But he didn't move. He stared out into the clearing, and then he started shaking, not violently, just small tremors, like something cold had crept under his skin. He whispered, almost to himself, "I shouldn't have come back here." I stayed silent, frozen. He looked back at me. "I used to come out here with my brother, a long time ago, before he disappeared." That stopped me. "What?" I whispered. He nodded slowly. "We'd ride out here, play near the creek. One day, he didn't come back. Police searched for days. Never found anything. They said maybe he ran away, but I know better." My breath hitched. "Why? Why are you bringing me here?" He swallowed hard. "I don't know. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Tonight felt like the night. Like maybe if I came back, I'd understand." I couldn't tell if he was breaking down or setting me up. His voice was trembling now, his eyes distant, haunted. "I don't even know why I picked up your ride," he continued. "I was going offline. Just one last trip, I thought." My mind screamed for action, for escape. But I also realized maybe this man was broken. Maybe he was lost in a place so deep that logic couldn't pull him out. But I still didn't trust him. "Look," I said, trying to sound calm. "Why don't we just leave? Go back. You can drop me off." "You don't have to be here." He stared out the windshield again. Then, slowly, he nodded without a word. He started the car. We turned around, back down the same dirt path. The trees felt tighter now, more oppressive. The silence louder. I didn't speak. Neither did he. It took 15 minutes before we hit asphalt again. When we reached the edge of the forest, my phone buzzed. Signal. Returned. A flood of notifications hit all at once. Missed calls. Failed messages. A reply from my roommate. "WTF? Are you okay?" Kyle pulled up to a gas station without asking. Parked, hands still on the wheel. "I'm sorry," he said, quietly. "For everything." I stared at him. "Why did you do it?" I asked. "Why scare me like that?" He shook his head. "I didn't mean to. Sometimes it feels like the only way to not be alone is to bring someone else into your memories. Even if it's a stranger." I didn't have words. I got out, walked straight into the gas station, asked the cashier to call me another ride. When I looked back, the silver Camry was gone. No taillights, no engine hum, just GOE. I got home. An hour later, still shaking. The next morning, I tried reporting him through the app, but the ride wasn't there. It never showed up in my history. No record of it. No driver named Kyle. No silver Camry. It was like it never happened. Except for one thing. My phone had saved one photo from that night. A blurry, accidental shot I must have taken while clutching. It too tight. It showed trees, headlights, and a man standing outside the car. Not Kyle, not me. Just standing there, looking straight at the camera. And I don't know what terrifies me more, the ride that shouldn't exist, or the fact that he was never supposed to be there. I didn't sleep that night, even though I was back in my apartment, wrapped in familiar blankets, surrounded by furniture I knew something in me couldn't settle. I kept replaying every second of that ride, the trees, his silence, the trembling, and most of all, that photo, that man in the woods, the one I hadn't seen with my own eyes, but who had clearly seen me. I enlarged the image over and over. The shot was poor, dark, blurry, but his outline was distinct. Male, still, staring. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light, maybe even Kyle himself stepping out of the car. But that didn't line up with the moment the photo was taken. The timeline didn't match. Something felt wrong. I should have left it alone. But the next night, I went back into the Uber app, searched for the ride again. Still no record. Still no Kyle. It was like the app had been hijacked, or I'd hallucinated everything. I knew I hadn't. I posted in a local Reddit thread. Anyone else ever had an Uber ride disappear from their history? Most replies were jokes. A few suggested logging out and back in. One user asked if I'd been drinking. But one reply stood out. It is from a user named ghostfairy_21. The comment was short. "You saw him too." I froze. I replied instantly. "Who?" No answer. I messaged them directly. Hours passed. Then, at 3:12 a.m., I got a response. The man in the woods. He appears when someone remembers. What did that even mean? I pressed for more, but they went. Silent. Their profile disappeared 2 hours later. Vanished. Deleted. By now. I felt like I was losing it, but I couldn't stop digging. Looked up missing persons reports in the area from the last 30 years. Narrowed it down to children and teens who vanished in rural sections near the forest. Scrolled for hours, and I saw him. Jeremy Flanagan. Disappeared in 1998. Last seen riding bikes with his older brother. Case unsolved. The photo was grainy. Scanned from an old yearbook. But I recognized him. It was the boy from the woods. Or what looked like a grown version of him. I couldn't understand it. Why was he in my photo? Had Kyle really seen him that night? Was that why he brought me there? Not to hurt me, but to find his brother? Suddenly, this wasn't just my story. I wasn't just a passenger in a scary Uber ride anymore. I was a witness. I knew I should go to the police. But what would I even say? There's a ghost in my photo? They vanished my Uber ride? Number. One would believe me. So I did the one thing I thought I'd never do again. Went back to the woods. I didn't take an Uber this time. I drove myself. Broad daylight. Bright sun. I figured I'd feel safer that way. but the road looked different in the light. Smaller, quieter, more real. I parked at the same clearing. The dirt was undisturbed. No tire tracks. No sign that anyone had been there recently. I stepped out. Listened. Nothing but birds. I walked to where Kyle had stopped the car. I stood still, held my phone up, matched the angle of the accidental photo. Trees. Sky. No. Man. Of course not. But then I turned, and I saw it, half buried beneath leaves and time. Bike, rusty, bent, the back wheel still faintly red. I knelt, touched it. My heart slammed against my chest, etched into the metal, just visible under the grime, were the letters J.F. Jeremy Flanagan. I stumbled back, took photos, several. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I ran back to the car, drove home without stopping. When I got there, the photos were gone. Not blurry, not corrupted, gone. Nothing but black squares. I checked everything cloud backup. SD-card recently deleted. Nothing. But that's not the worst part. That night, I got a voicemail. No caller ID, just a time stamp. When I played it, I almost dropped. My phone. It was Kyle. His voice was distant, hollow, like it was coming through water. Thank you for going back, he said. I needed someone else to see it, to know I wasn't crazy. He's still there. He always will be. Then silence. Then a whisper, too soft to make out. But it chilled me. I replayed the message 12 times. The whisper never got clearer. But the meaning did. I wasn't done with this. And neither was he. Asterisk, I didn't sleep again. This time, it wasn't the fear of Kyle, or the woods, or even the voicemail. It was something deeper. A pressure in my chest. A presence I couldn't name. Every creak in my apartment felt heavier. Every shadow lingered. That whisper on the voicemail haunted me. It wasn't just sound. It was a feeling. Like someone breathing against my neck in the dark. Not malevolent. Not kind. Just watching. I turned on every light in my place. Piled chairs against the front door. Sat up all night on the couch, gripping my phone like a weapon. And at exactly 3:33 a.m., my TV turned on by itself. No sound, just static. Then, a flicker, a frame, just for a second. But I saw it, the photo, the one I took in the woods. The man in the trees. Then back to static. I screamed, pulled the plug from the wall. Darkness. I left the apartment the next morning, checked into a motel 3 towns over, paid in cash, gave no name. I just needed space, but even there, it followed. M. In the bathroom mirror. Condensation formed a pattern after my shower. Letters. He's waiting. I wiped it away, checked again. Nothing. I felt like I was coming apart. Then, I got another voicemail. Same number. Same empty ID. Kyle again. Only this time, he was crying, not sobbing. Just leaking pain. Like the sound of a soul unraveling. Don't look for him anymore, he said. He's not what you think. He doesn't want to be found. Then a pause, and a voice that wasn't his. A child. Come play, it whispered. That's when I broke. I booked a flight out of state. Packed nothing but my phone and wallet. Left the rest. I didn't care. I thought distance would help, but 2 days after landing in Arizona, I woke up to find a piece of paper slipped under my hotel door. White. Crisp. Typed in black ink. You went too far. Now he knows you. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not my friends. Not the police. Because I knew they wouldn't understand. This wasn't about a missing boy anymore. This was something older. Deeper. I stopped sleeping altogether. Only closed my eyes when I passed out from exhaustion. One night, I dreamed of the woods, Dot, except they were darker. Black bark, blood red sky, no birds, no wind, Dot, just silence, Dot. And him, Dot, Jeremy, Dot. He stood 5 feet from me, Dot, still a child, still wearing the eye. Same shirt from his missing poster, but his face, it wasn't a child's anymore. Not exactly, Dot, it was stretched, hollowed, ageless. His mouth never moved. But I heard him. You shouldn't have come back. I woke up gasping, nose bleeding, mouth dry. I decided I had to tell someone. Anyone, Dot, so I drove to the nearest small-town sheriff's office. Asked to speak off the record. The deputy was kind. Middle-aged, polite, Dot, until I said Jeremy Flanagan's name. His face changed. He leaned back in his chair, closed the file he was pretending to look at. You don't talk about that boy here, he said. I saw him. I told him. He shook his head. No, you didn't. I have proof, or I did. He stood, walked to the door, held it open. Go. Home. When I didn't move, he added, he chooses who sees him, and who stays. Then closed the door behind me. I sat in my car for hours, didn't move, didn't blink, and when I finally looked in the rearview mirror, I saw him, Jeremy, in the back seat, just for a second. Then gone, my phone never worked again. After that, battery drained within minutes. Wouldn't turn back on. I tossed it in the trash behind a diner on the interstate. I've been running ever since, new towns, new names, no electronics, no photos, no mirrors, because every time I get too close to normal again, he finds me, sometimes. In dreams, sometimes in reflections, sometimes. In the eyes of strangers on the street, Jeremy Flanagan was a boy who went missing in 1998, but he didn't die. He became something else, something that waits. And now that I've seen him, now that I remember, he waits for me. I moved again, another new state, another alias, another pay-as-you-go phone, wrapped in aluminum foil when I wasn't using it. I stopped using GPS. I stopped answering unknown numbers. I stayed away from mirrors, reflections, cameras, anything that could accidentally show him again. But none of it worked. The nightmares started to bleed into the daytime. I'd be walking down a street in broad daylight and suddenly feel the world shift like a snap, like stepping from one frequency into another. Colors dull, air heavy, sounds distorted, and then him, standing still, at the end of the sidewalk, at the edge of a store window, in the reflection of a spoon, always him. Jeremy. But it's not Jeremy anymore. That part is long gone. What stands there now is the shell of a child whose pain stretched across dimensions. A thing shaped by memory, forgotten grief, and the echo of woods that never gave up their dead. I tried talking to a therapist once. Used a fake name. Paid in cash. She listened for a while. Took notes. Nodded. Then she said something that stuck with me. You're not insane. You're haunted. And haunting doesn't need logic. I didn't go back. Not because I disagreed, but because I knew she was right. Haunting doesn't need logic. And Jeremy, he wasn't a ghost. He was worse. That night, I dreamt of the first car ride again. The Uber, the woods. But this time, Kyle wasn't driving. Jeremy was. He sat tall, in the front seat, eyes just above the steering wheel. His hands too small to reach the pedals, yet the car moved like it was gliding. He didn't look at me, he didn't speak, but I could feel what he wanted. Where are we going? I whispered. The trees outside the window blurred. No road, no signs, only forest. And then, as we passed one particular cluster of blackened bark, I saw them. Other cars, other passengers, faces frozen in terror, staring through glass windows, pounding silently, mouths open in eternal screams. Each car a tune, each passenger. Someone like me, not someone who got too close, someone who couldn't look away. I woke up gasping, heart punching my ribs. And then I heard it, a soft knocking, not on the door, on the window. I lived on the 3rd floor. Didn't move, didn't breathe. Eventually, I forced myself to peek through the blinds, nothing. But as I stepped back, my phone lit up on the table. One new voicemail. No. Number. Just the timestamp. 3:33 a.m. I hit play. It was a recording of me. Knocking. Not screaming. Just breathing. Heavy. Panicked. Exactly like I had been moments earlier, except in the background, a voice. Whispering. Double quotes. Next time, you won't wake up. I dropped the phone, smashed it with the heel of my boot until it was shattered. Plastic and dead circuits. But the message had already been received. He was done watching. Now, he was playing. Asterisk. I packed that morning without brushing my teeth, without checking the weather, without turning off the stove I hadn't even used. I stuffed a duffel bag with the bare minimum cash, fake IDs, burner phones, knife, and left. No plan, no destination. Only movement. Gas stations became my safe zones. I'd refuel, grab a snack I couldn't eat, wipe my face in the bathroom. Mirror I couldn't look into, then drive until I couldn't anymore. For a week, I kept to the interstates. Hotels with outside entries, always backing my car into the parking space, always leaving the duffel bag at the foot of the bed, zippers, open, ready, but nothing happened. No knocks, no voicemails, no Jeremy. Just silence, until the day I saw the car, parked 3 spots away at a rest. Stop outside Little Rock. It was the exact same model as the Uber from that night. Black sedan, tinted windows, cracked rearview mirror. At first, I thought it was paranoia. Then I saw the back seat. A stuffed animal sat alone on the leather cushion. A rabbit, pale gray, one ear missing. The same toy I'd noticed barely on the original ride. I walked fast, straight back to my car. Inside, I tried to start the engine. Nothing. The lights blinked. Dashboard glitche. Battery dead. I turned to reach my phone then. Remembered I hadn't replaced it. The rest stop was empty. Deserted. And then I saw the door of the black sedan open. A boy stepped out. Couldn't be older than 10. Shirt too big. Jeans too short. And no face. Not mutilated. Not bloody. Just smooth. Skin where features should be. No eyes. No mouth. Yet I knew it was him. I locked the car doors, even though I knew it wouldn't help. The boy raised one hand, slowly, and pointed. At my passenger seat, I turned. The duffel bag was open, and inside it, a phone. Lit up, vibrating, incoming call. Unknown. I stared. The boy outside didn't move. I didn't want to answer. I didn't want to hear. But I picked it up. Held it to my ear. Silence. Then static. Then my own voice. Screaming. Long. Blood curdling. Real. It echoed through the speaker like a memory, being ripped out of my chest. Then the voice changed. Low. Hollow. Your body will forget, it said. But your bones remember. The call ended. The boy was gone. I opened the car door, stumbled into the daylight, and threw up beside the tires. I don't remember getting back on the road, but I did. Drove for hours, days, until I found a motel that didn't ask for ID. Inside, I collapsed on the bed and wept. The next morning, the room was covered in writing. Walls, mirror, bedsheets, all scrawled in charcoal black symbols I didn't recognize. Not English. Not any language. Just marks. Shapes. And a single message on the ceiling, scratched so deep into the plaster that dust fell over my face. I've been in the trunk since Arkansas. I screamed, tore the room apart, ran to the front desk. The clerk said I checked in alone. Sagai didn't speak a word when I arrived. Said I paid in coins. I left again. This time, I didn't run. I walked into the woods. Not sure where. Not sure why. But I heard him. Jeremy. Somewhere deep, far beneath the roots and dirt and time. I realized it was never about the Uber. Never about Kyle. Never even about Jeremy. It was about me. I was the door. I was the invitation. The moment I stepped into that car, I opened something that had waited far longer than I understood. And now I can't close it. Asterisk, the further I walked, the less the world made sense. The trees leaned in, unnatural angles. Branches didn't sway with the wind, they twisted, as if reaching. The sky above had no color, just a dull smear of ash and bruise. My legs moved on their own, automatic, pulled forward by something beneath logic. I didn't know if it was hunger, exhaustion, or some psychic tether unraveling across distance. But I couldn't stop. Birds didn't sing here. Bugs didn't hum. There was only silence, vast and suffocating. And under that silence, I heard it again. The sound soft, wet, like someone crying through mud. It came from below, up to my knees, palms against the earth. I didn't dig. The soil moved on its own, shifting, crumbling, revealing something beneath. Not bones, not bodies, a hatch. Wooden, rotten. Tied shut with a child's jump rope. I stared. That rope, it was mine. From my childhood. Blue and white, frayed at the ends. I hadn't seen it in over 20 years. How did it get here? I didn't want to touch it, but my hands moved without consent, untying the rope, fingers trembling as they grasped the rusted metal ring. I pulled. The hatch creaked, and the darkness beneath exhaled. The air was thick, warm and sweet like rotting fruit. I climbed down. The ladder gave way after the second rung. I fell. The landing wasn't hard. It was soft, squishy. I stood, and that's when I realized I wasn't alone. All around me photos, thousands of them, stapled, nailed, pinned to the walls. Every single one of me. Different ages, different places. Me as a child in a birthday hat. Me as a teen, walking home from school. Me last week, exiting a gas station in Missouri. Who took these? How did they get here? I turned. A single chair sat in the center of the room. On it, my backpack, open, and inside, my journal. Pages turned, one after the other, by invisible fingers. Each page bore words I'd never written. I see you. You're almost home. Don't forget what you buried. My breath caught. Then I heard it. Footsteps. From above. Slow. Deliberate. Someone was coming. I backed into the corner, heart pounding like a war drum. The hatch opened again. Light poured. A silhouette appeared. Not a child. Not Jeremy. It was me. An exact copy. Same clothes. Same scars. Same expression. They looked down at me. Head tilted. Then they spoke. You left me in the car. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. The figure climbed down. Step by step. When they reached the floor, they reached into their pocket and pulled out a phone. My phone. The one I'd smashed months ago. They pressed play. The voicemail from that night. Only now, it was longer. The scream continued, but it wasn't just mine. Layered underneath was Jeremy's and Kyle's, and someone else's low, ancient, inhuman. The scream became language, not words, but meaning, a command. Come back, bring him. We're not finished. I ran out of the basement, through the woods. Branches clawed at my arms. Roots tried to trip me, but I didn't stop. I didn't stop until I saw the road. And the car, a black sedan, engine running, driver's side open. I approached, Hands shaking got inside. A note on the seat. One line. Final trip. No return. I got in. Not because I wanted to. Because I had no choice. Because this had never been about escape. It was about arrival. The engine purred like it had been waiting. The moment I closed the door, the locks clicked shut automatically. No driver. No key in the ignition. And yet, the car moved. Back into the woods. No headlights. Just the sickly glow of a moon that didn't look like any moon I'd ever seen. It flickered like a dying bulb. I should have jumped out. I should have screamed. But my body had stopped belonging to me. My fingers clenched the seatbelt. My eyes stared straight ahead. The trees thinned, but not into any clearing I remembered. Instead, we passed rows of identical houses. Suburban boxes in various states of decay, windows cracked, doors hanging loose. And inside faces, pressed against the glass, watching me. Some looked angry, some terrified. Some looked like me, older, deformed. Broken. One had its eyes stitched shut. Another had no mouth. But they were all me. Different versions, different timelines, like a hall of mirrors, built from suffering. The car stopped. In front of the last house. It looked familiar, not because I'd been there, but because it was drawn from my memories. The front porch had the same crack Dad fell through in '98, the broken wind chime. Mom always refused to throw out. It was my childhood home, but twisted. Wilted. Like a corpse in house form. I stepped out. The door opened before I could knock. A girl stood there, barefoot, nightgown stained with something dark. She couldn't have been older than 10. She looked at me and said, "You're late." I opened my mouth, but she grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. The interior was worse. Walls pulsed like lungs. Photos bled from their frames. Every clock ticked. Backward. The girl led me to the basement door. I hesitated. She stared. Her eyes were hollow. Not metaphorically, literally. Hollow sockets, empty, yet still seeing. "We've been waiting," she whispered. I descended. The basement was lit by candles that dripped black wax. At the center, a circle of chairs. Each one occupied. Kyle. Jeremy. My parents. My first girlfriend. My old school principal. My childhood dog. Upright in a chair, tongue hanging, head tilted. All dead, or never alive. Or maybe just echoes. At the final empty chair. The girl pointed. I sat. The others turned to face me in perfect sync. And then, in unison, they said, "Where did you go?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The girl stepped into the center. Her skin peeled away like paper. Beneath it, Jeremy. Not the boy I met, but something older. Vast. His eyes were endless. He smiled. "You brought the car back," he said. I nodded, though I hadn't meant to. "You remember now," he added, and I did. All of it. That night in the woods wasn't the first time. It was the return. The recollection. I had grown up in this town. I had disappeared here before, and they had brought me back again and again. Each time, a different mask, a different route, but always the same destination. I stood, faced Jeremy, faced myself, faced the loop. I said the words I'd never known before, but were written in me since birth. I never left. The room sighed. The candles died. Darkness swallowed the space. But this time, I didn't scream. I didn't run, because I finally understood. This was not my story. It was theirs. And I had always been the vehicle. Asterisk. When the darkness lifted, I wasn't in the basement anymore. I was in the car again. Back seat. Seatbelt fastened. Outside the window, the world passed in reverse. Trees pulled backward. Houses de-aged. Roads unpaved themselves. It was like watching time unwind, unraveling everything I'd known, taking it all back. I tried to move. Couldn't. My body was locked, paralyzed. The driver's seat was occupied dot by me, dot not a reflection. Not a hallucination, dot another version of me. Older, haggard, covered in dust, blood, and soil. His eyes met mine in the mirror, and I knew he had seen things I hadn't yet. But with Doc, he smiled. And then I was outside the car, standing in front of a building I didn't recognize. Large, empty. Hospital dot abandoned dot. Its sign had no name, just missing letters and rust. I walked in dot no. One stopped me. The air was damp, stale. Every step echoed forever, peeling paint on the walls. Cracked tiles on the floor dot. This place wasn't haunted by ghosts, but it was haunted by me, dot my own fears. Memories I had buried so deep they fossilized. Hallways twisted like mazes. Every door I opened showed a different version of the same room where I was strapped to a gurney, eyes wide, mouth stitched. Another room where I was a doctor, injecting something into a faceless patient. Another where I was the floor, and people walked on me dot. I wanted to scream, but the air wouldn't carry sound. Then I heard it again. A child crying from the elevator shaft. I peered down. It stretched into blackness dot. I climbed in dot, descended dot, no cables. No lights dot, just falling. Endless falling. Until I landed, not with a crash, but like I had always been there. The walls around me weren't walls anymore. They were flesh, pulsing, breathing, and there was a crib, wooden, splintered dot inside. A child dot, it was me dot newborn, screaming. But when I reached down, I realized the crib was a coffin, nailed shut from the inside dot. My fingers bled as I pulled the lid free. Inside wasn't a baby. It was a bundle of old Uber receipts, gas station, maps dot photos of passengers. Hundreds of them dot, all with their eyes scratched out, except mine dot, mine were intact, still blinking dot, still watching. I backed away dot, tripped dot, fell into a mirror. Glass shattered. On the other side, the road dot, midnight dot, I was back dot in the driver's seat, again dot, phone on the dash. New request. Pick up at 1:13 a.m. location, a cemetery on the edge of town. I looked at myself in the mirror. Something was wrong with my reflection. It moved before I did. Mouth open dot, and spoke. You're not done. Asterisk, I didn't remember accepting the ride. But the car began moving anyway, toward the cemetery. Fog rolled in, thick like milk. The trees leaned inward as if trying to listen. I kept telling myself it was a dream, a loop, a delusion, but everything felt more real than the world I'd come from. The headstones appeared one by one through the mist. I parked dot, engine off. Phone buzzed. Your rider has arrived. No one was outside, but the back door opened dot, and someone climbed in. I didn't dare look. Not yet dot, my hands were trembling as I gripped the wheel dot, and then a whisper dot, low. Familiar. Drive. I turned dot, my mother dot, as she was the day she died. Pale, gaunt, dressed in her hospital gown. But her eyes, alive, terrifyingly alive. I didn't ask questions. I drove. The road unspooled in front of us. Though I saw no destination dot, every sign we passed was blank. Every mile felt like years. Then she spoke. You were supposed to stay gone. I gripped the wheel tighter. What do you mean? I asked dot. She didn't answer. Instead, she hummed a lullaby dot, one I hadn't heard since I was a child. Tears rolled down my face, because that lullaby wasn't hers dot, it was mine. I had made it up. Alone dot, in a hospital bed dot, after she died. I looked again. She was gone. The back seat empty. But the scent of her remained dot, lilacs dot, salt, and something burning. I checked the mirror and saw another me dot, scarred dot, eyes hollow, whispering something I couldn't hear. I pulled over. threw open the door, ran into the woods, not caring where. I ended up. Branches scratched my face. Roots grabbed my feet. But I didn't stop until I collapsed. Fell into a clearing. I'd never seen Dot. And in the middle of my car. Burned. Destroyed Dot with a charred body in the driver's seat. Not mine. Dot, I fell to my knees. I remembered. This wasn't the first time. Not even the 10th Dot. It was the 100th Dot each time. I returned. Tried to change something. Dot save someone. Escape the loop. But I always ended here. Dot kneeling. Dot crying. Dot staring at the proof that I was already dead. That I had been dead. For years. Dot my soul trapped in this circuit. Dot my guilt made manifest. I had caused something terrible. Dot in a past I couldn't fully recall. And the world wouldn't let me forget. Wouldn't let me move on. Dot until I paid Dot in full. The air turned cold. Dot. The trees whispered. Dot. And in the distance, the sound of an engine starting. Dot. Another version of me. Dot. Back on the road. Beginning again. Wow. I stayed. Dot. Ashes and memory. Dot. A whisper in the woods. Waiting for the next ride. It started like any other Thursday night. I was coming home late from my shift at the bar. Tired, drained, shoes soaked in spilled beer, smelling of cigarette smoke, even though the place had banned smoking years ago. The usual. I'd missed the last bus again. Too many drinkers staying past closing. Too many apologies from me while mopping up after their slurred regrets. Dot. So I pulled out my phone, opened the rideshare app, and requested a car. Estimated fare, $12. Short ride, maybe 10 minutes tops. And I'd be home, microwaving leftovers in my socks, collapsing into bed before the sun even dared peek over the rooftops. I didn't check the driver's name, didn't look at the plate, didn't do what people always say you should do on true crime podcasts. I just got in. The interior was clean. Too clean, like sterile. No air freshener, no trash, no personal items. Just black leather seats, dashboard lights dimmed to nothing, and the hum of a car that might as well have been floating. Evening. I muttered. Dot. The driver didn't answer. He just pulled off from the curb and merged onto the nearly empty road. Something was off. You know that feeling when the silence is too heavy? When you suddenly become aware of your own breathing? Your own heartbeat echoing in your ears? That's how it felt in that car. I glanced up at the rearview mirror. He was wearing a cap pulled low, jaw stiff, pale skin. No expression, his eyes, when I caught a glimpse of them, weren't looking at the road. They were looking at me, through the mirror. Not like someone casually glancing back. He was watching. I looked away, told myself it was nothing. Maybe he was just weird, socially awkward. God knows I've had rides with guys who wouldn't shut up, and rides with others who seemed to forget I was even in the back seat. Still, I opened the app to check the route. Dot. It was wrong. We were heading the opposite direction from my apartment. I leaned forward. Excuse me? I think you missed the turn. No response. Hey, I live near Lincoln and Grove. You're going the wrong way. Still nothing. I reached for my phone again to cancel the ride, but it was frozen. The app wouldn't. Close. None of the buttons worked. Even the side power button did nothing. Okay, seriously. Man, let me out. Silence. Then the car slowed down. We turned down a narrow, dark street I'd never seen before. No street lamps. No houses, just trees. Tall, black, clawing the sky. Dot. The tires crunched gravel. Dot. Then the car stopped. Dot. I hesitated. Are we dot here? I asked, though I already knew the answer. He finally spoke. His voice was dry, like parchment tearing. You said you needed a ride. Then he opened his door, got out, and walked into the woods. Left the engine running. Dot. Just walked. Slowly. No flashlight. No phone. Just into the trees. I sat there, Stunned, Dot debated staying, running, screaming, calling someone, anyone. But the phone still wouldn't. Work. Dot, no bars. Dot, no signal. The map was just a blank grid, like the world had erased itself. I tried the door. Dot, it opened. Dot, cool night air rushed in. Smelled like moss and something. Dot, rotten. Dot, I stepped out. I don't know why. I followed him. Maybe because it felt like I wasn't allowed to leave. Maybe because something deep inside told me if I turned back to the city now, I'd still be in that car forever. Dot, so I followed. The path was barely visible. The only light came from the car's red taillights, casting long shadows through the trees. Branches whipped my arms. Thorns caught my jeans. But I kept moving. I could still see him ahead. The driver. Always just out of reach. Then he stopped out at the base of a hill. Dot, and pointed. Not at me. Dot, at the ground. I stepped closer. There was something buried there. A wooden signpost. I brushed away the dirt. Dot, it read, "Welcome back." I turned to ask him what the hell that meant, but he was gone. Dot, vanished. Dot, I spun around. Nothing but trees. No footsteps. No rustling leaves. Just dead silence. Then I heard it. The phone ringing. But not my phone. Dot, his. Dot, coming from underground. Dropped to my knees and started digging. Bare hands clawing at the soil. Dot, until my fingers hit something hard. Dot, metal. Dot, eye locker. I pulled it up. Dirt raining down my sleeves. Inside a phone. Old. Cracked. Still ringing. Dot, I answered it. "Hello?" A voice, exactly like mine, replied, "Why did you come back?" And then click. Dead air. The trees shifted, and I realized they weren't trees at all. They were crosses. Wooden crosses. Hundreds of them. Each one with a name carved into it. And the name on the closest one? Mine. Asterisk. The moment I saw my own name carved into that cross, something inside me cracked. Not like a bone snapping, not like glass shattering, but something quieter. A shift, like realizing you've been dreaming, only to find out the dream was more real than your life. I stumbled backward, my breath caught in my throat. Dirt still clung under my nails, the locker half open at my feet. That ancient phone, silent now, sat like a grave marker. The ground around me, no, not ground. Graves. All of them. The wooden crosses were uneven, hand-carved, rotting with age. Some names had been gouged out. Others were marked with dates, birthdays. Maybe death days? Mine said just one thing. "Welcome back, Isaac." I never told the driver my name. I never input it into the app. Let it be here. I turned in a circle, scanning for any path, any exit. But the woods had thickened behind. Me. The car was gone. No headlights. No trail. No tire tracks. Like it had never been there. Like the road itself had sunk into the earth. I began to run. Didn't know where. Didn't care. Just away from that graveyard. Branches tore at my face. Roots clawed my boots. I lost count of how many times I fell. Got up. Fell again. Then dashlight. Not the warm glow of a city. A flicker. Faint. Cold. I emerged into a clearing, chest heaving, and saw a house. Not abandoned. Not quite. The windows were dark, but there was a dim bulb swinging over the porch, like it had been left on just for me. I crept closer. The steps creaked under my weight. The front door wasn't locked. It swung open before I touched it. Inside, the air smelled stale, like a place that had once been lived in, but hadn't been. Touched in decades. Dust covered everything except the floor. There was a path. Clean footprints leading deeper inside. I followed them. Through the living room. Down a hall. Past peeling wallpaper and warped picture frames. The photos. I stopped. They were of me, as a child. Then older. Teen years, then recent. Photos. I didn't remember being taken dot in one. I was sitting at my work desk. Another walking. Out of my apartment building. The most recent was from last week, me at the bar, handing someone their tab. Who took these? And how did they end up here? The trail ended at a door basement. I hesitated, but something pulled me forward, down the creaking. Stairs. Into the cold. The basement was unfinished. Damp. Smelled of rust and whetstone at the far. And another door. Heavy, iron it was slightly ajar. Beyond it. Silence. I pushed it open. There were no lights, only candles. Dozens of them, flickering. Lining the walls of a small room and in the center, a chair. Strapped to it, head slumped forward me. I froze It wasn't a reflection. That it wasn't a trick. That it was me. Same face. Same haircut. Same clothes I was wearing right now. Except this version of me had been beaten, bruised, blood on the collar. Eye swollen shut. I stepped forward, the figure lifted his head. His mouth opened, and I heard my own voice. You left me here. I tried to speak. Couldn't. He smiled. Sadly. You forgot. But I remember everything. What is this? I whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked past me, behind me. I turned. The driver, standing in the shadows, holding something in his hands. Clipboard. He extended it to me. On it, a contract. By entering this space, you have agreed to return. What was taken? What was taken? I asked, but he was already stepping back. The lights dimmed. My double began to scream. His face contorted in pain. The candles flickered wildly, casting shadows across the walls. I couldn't move. My feet were rooted in darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the back of the Uber. Same leather seats. Same quiet hum. Except now I was in the driver's seat. My hands gripped the wheel. I looked into the mirror. My eyes. But not mine. And behind me a passenger. Young. Tired. Pulling out his phone. I turned on the ignition. He didn't look up. I smiled, said nothing, asterisk, and took the long road home. I didn't remember the transition. Just. One moment I was him, a passenger, lost, confused, panicking in a basement full of candles and shadows. And the next, I was driving. Everything inside me screamed that it was wrong, that I didn't belong in that seat, that the hands on the wheel weren't mine, but they were every scar, every freckle, familiar, yet I knew. Deep inside, I was no longer the one being taken. I was now the one delivering. The boy in the back seat kept looking at his phone, tapping like he was trying to load a map. But the signal was gone. There were no bars, no GPS, just static. I knew because I'd tried it myself once. Long ago, had started the same way. A cheap ride, a quick detour, and a price I never agreed to pay. I watched him in the rear view, his brow furrowed, his fingers moving faster. Then he looked up. Hey, this doesn't look like the route. Where are we going? I wanted to answer. I truly did, but something in my throat locked up. Like the words were trapped behind walls I couldn't scale. I blinked hard, gripped the wheel tighter. I'm sorry, I whispered. He leaned forward. What? But I didn't respond. I couldn't. It wasn't mine to say anymore. The trees thickened. The road narrowed. Familiar gravel crunched beneath the tires. I hadn't seen this place in what felt like lifetimes, but I knew it by sound, not sight. The forest, the clearing, the place where time folds in on itself. He leaned forward again. Dude, are you even listening to me? Stop the car. I didn't. He reached for the door handle. Pulled. Locked. He cursed. I didn't flinch. The clearing opened up at the graves, the crosses. My name no longer among them, but others. Many others. He saw it too. His face went pale. What the hell is this? He muttered Dot, then he saw the one carved just minutes ago. His name. I don't know who carved it. Maybe I did. Maybe it just appears now. Like the place knows. He kicked at the door, shouted, threatened to call the cops. But the signal wouldn't return. Dot, not here. Dot, not ever. Stop the car. Put it in park, Dot. He opened the door before I even said a word and stumbled out. Into the dark. Toward the forest. As if that was safer. I didn't stop him. I never did. Because I COULDN single quotes T dot instead. I sat dot, waited dot, and soon the passenger seat would be full again. When I woke, I was back in my apartment. Dot alone, dot no keys. No phone dot, just a faint scent of pine and cold metal in the air. I stumbled to the mirror. Dot, my eyes were different. Dot older dot sharper. Dot not mine. Knew it would start again. Because it always does. There's always someone else who thinks $12 is a good deal for a ride. There's always someone desperate to get somewhere fast. There's always a price. I heard a chime. Not from my phone. Dot from the air. Like a bell, but distorted. Far away and deep inside. A new passenger was waiting. Tried to scream. But my mouth stayed shut. The ride had begun. Asterisk, asterisk. I started noticing the changes the moment I stepped back into my building. The stairs groaned. Differently. The door to my apartment didn't creak, it hissed. My keys no longer matched the shape of the lock. Yet the door opened anyway. Dot, my neighbors, if that's what they still were, didn't make eye contact. They kept their doors closed, their windows covered, their TVs muted. Dot, and when I passed by apartment 4B, I heard something crying. Not a person, not an animal, something in between. I should have called someone, but who would I call? The police. What would I tell them? That I'd been possessed by a cursed Uber driver and delivered a stranger to an ancient forest that etched tombstones in real time? No, they'd lock me up. Dot, and maybe that's what I needed. A padded cell. A break from the mirrors that now showed too many faces, from the voices whispering GPS directions in my sleep. But I knew it wouldn't stop it. The ride wasn't over. I tried not to leave the apartment. I kept all the lights on, all the windows shut, all the reflections covered. I threw away every piece of tech that could connect me to anything. And yet, the ping still came, not from a phone. From inside me. Dot, like something vibrating in my spine. Dot, an address whispered into my blood. And I would stand, walk, and end up at the wheel again. The roads always looked the same. Empty, fogged, painted in wrong angles, where lines bent and trees stared. I drove, even when I didn't remember getting in the car. And always, someone would get in. Sometimes a teenager with earbuds. Sometimes a drunk man laughing. Once, an old woman clutching a doll that looked just like her. I never picked them. They just appeared. Dot, and every time I'd try to warn them, but my mouth was numb. My voice sounded like someone else's, someone trying to convince them everything was fine. And always, the ride took us deeper. One of them, her name was Tara, grabbed my wrist halfway down a dirt road. Why are you shaking? She asked. I stared. Straight ahead. You don't want to take me there, do you? Her voice cracked. Not from fear, empathy. No, I whispered. I don't. But you have to? I nodded. Dot, she squeezed my hand. And when we reached the clearing, she didn't run. She looked at me and said, "Tell them I wasn't afraid." Then she stepped out and disappeared into the woods. Didn't cry. I couldn't. Tears belonged to passengers. I was just the vehicle. When I got home that night, there was a letter taped to my mirror. No handwriting. Just a typed line. Only one way to end the route. I tore it off, threw it away. But the next day, it was there again. And the next dot, always the same message. One way to end the route. I tried to ignore it. I boarded up the mirror. But it showed up on the TV dot then, on the wall dot, and on the inside of my eyelids dot. I knew what it meant, but I wasn't ready. Until I saw him dot the kid dot maybe 11. Shivering on the sidewalk outside my building dot no phone. No ride ordered dot just waiting dot when he saw me. He stood. I think I'm lost, he said. He had my eyes dot my mother's hair. He looked like me dot not just resemblance. He was me. A younger version dot innocent, not yet taken. I don't know where home is, he whispered. And I knew this was the last fare. The one that would complete the route. Asterisk, he sat in the back seat, legs too short to touch the floor, clutching his little backpack against his chest, like it held his entire world inside. And maybe it did. I didn't ask his name. I didn't need to. I already knew. I adjusted the mirror. For the first time in what felt like centuries, I saw myself in it. Not the shadowed versions, not the distorted faces. Just me. Gaunt, hollow-eyed, but me. The car started without me. Touching the key. The dashboard glowed red. The GPS didn't show a destination, just a single word. End. I should have cried. I didn't. Instead, I said, "Are you scared?" He didn't look up. He just whispered, "You were." I drove. The city fell away behind us. The sky turned a shade of gray that didn't exist in nature. Every mile blurred into the next dot. The boy hummed something soft. Sad, familiar. I remembered it from a dream. No, from childhood. A lullaby my mom used to sing when I had nightmares. Except now, the lullaby was the nightmare because it kept looping. Over and over. In perfect rhythm with the bumps in the road. As if the car and his voice were conspiring. I tried to speak, to break the silence, to stop the sound, but my throat was filled with ash. The road narrowed. Trees leaned in. Shadows darted between trunks, whispering names I used to know. Then the car. Stop. Middle of nowhere. Same as always, but different. The forest here wasn't dead. It was alive. Breathing. Watching. The boy open the door. He turned to me. "Thank you." I didn't move. He stepped onto the dirt and looked back, and I understood. This wasn't a child. Not anymore. This was the last part of me I hadn't delivered. The innocence. The fear. The hope. I had become the vehicle, but he was the passenger. That mattered. As he walked toward the trees. They parted not like branches, but like curtains. Beyond them, light pulsed. Not white, not golden, just pure. He vanished into it. And the road behind me collapsed. I turned to ash behind the wheel. The car dissolved around me, and I woke up. In my apartment. On my couch. Alone. Except. Everything was different. The mirrors no longer hissed. The hallway smelled like coffee and rain. The world looked normal again. But I wasn't. Not really. Checked my phone. Blank. No texts. No missed calls. No Uber app. I looked at myself in the mirror. No distortions. Just a tired man. Alive. But the silence was loud. And when night fell, I heard the soft chime again. Not a phone. Not a bell. Something older. Something waiting. And I knew. Route never truly ends. You can finish the fare. Deliver the last piece. But the road, it remembers you. And sometimes, on quiet nights, when the world forgets your name, it calls you back. And next time, the fare won't be $12. Next time, the cost will be everything. I had just finished my shift. Nothing dramatic. Nothing unusual. The kind of numb workday that drains your energy without giving you anything memorable in return. It was a Tuesday, or maybe Thursday. Those days blend together when your life doesn't have sharp edges anymore. I ordered a ride home because the buses were late, and I didn't feel like waiting in the cold drizzle. When the car pulled up, it looked perfectly average. Black sedan, a little dusty, but not concerning. The driver rolled down the window and smiled. "You Emily?" "Yeah," I said, climbing in. "5-star rating, right?" he said with a chuckle. "Helps my record." I gave a half laugh. The kind you give when someone expects a reaction, but your brain's already halfway shut down. "Sure," I said. The door's locked. Not the gentle click of central locking when the car starts moving. This was louder, sharper, too deliberate. But I told myself it was nothing. Standard procedure. Maybe a safety feature. We pulled away from the curb. He didn't start the app. The map wasn't on. No voice directions. No little blue ... just silence. The rain made soft static on the windows, and I watched the blur of streetlights pass like ghosts outside. "Taking a shortcut," he said suddenly. "Construction on the main road." I hadn't asked, but I nodded anyway. The city started to disappear. No more stores. No more people. Just older roads and trees leaning over the asphalt like tired arms. I checked my phone. Still on. Full battery. But the signal was gone. "Is this really a shortcut?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he hummed something. A melody with no rhythm, like he was improvising each note just to fill the silence. I tried to text someone, just a quick message, but the message didn't send. I looked up. He was watching me through the mirror, smile still in place. "Problem with your phone?" he asked. I shook my head too quickly. The car began to slow down. There were no streetlights here, only trees and fog. "Why are we stopping?" He put the car in park. "Stretching my legs," he said. Then he turned around in his seat, facing me fully. "Emily, right?" I didn't respond. "Thought you said you were Emily." My throat dried. I did." He tilted his head. "You sure about that?" I grabbed the door handle. Still locked. He smiled. 5-star rating, right?" Then he opened his door and stepped out. I didn't know what to do. My brain screamed, "Run, scream, break the window," but my hands were frozen. Not from fear exactly. It was more like disbelief. Like my mind hadn't caught up to the reality of what was happening. He walked around to the trunk. I heard it open. A thud, then silence. I reached into my coat for the small pocket knife I carried. It wasn't much. Just something my dad gave me. When I moved to the city, it felt pathetic in my hand. The driver returned, got back in, looked at me. "Nothing to worry about," he said. "Just checking something." Then he turned on the music. Old jazz, scratchy. From a tape deck, he started driving again. I looked for landmarks. Anything I could remember. But the road was unmarked. Just trees and fog and the sound of wet tires. "Used to drive trucks," he said casually. "Long haul. You see some strange things out on the road." I didn't answer. He continued. "Used to think I'd write a book someday. You know, all the weird stuff I've seen." He chuckled. "But," and I figured, some stories shouldn't be told. I clutched the knife tighter. "You don't talk much, huh?" I finally spoke. "Where are we going?" "Home," he said. "Who's home?" He didn't answer. We passed an old gas station abandoned. Vines climbing the rusted pumps. A payphone. Swinging in the wind. I memorized it. If I got out, I'd run back here, If he turned down another road. Gravel now. The car jolted with each pothole. The trees closed in tighter. Then we stopped again. He turned off the engine. The headlights stayed on, illuminating a small clearing. and something in the center dot, it looked like a chair. A single wooden chair, wet from rain. He looked at me. "I want to show you something," he said. "No, it's not far." I said no. He smiled again, but it was thinner now, less patient. "5-star rating," he whispered. I gripped the knife and lunged, but he was faster. He grabbed my wrist and twisted. Pain exploded in my arm, and the knife dropped to the floor. Now, that wasn't nice. He said. He leaned closer. His breath smelled like coffee and something else metallic. "Old. You don't have to be scared," he whispered, "but it helps." He got out, walked around, opened my door. "I won't chase you," he said. "You can run if you want." I didn't move. He reached in, grabbed the knife from the floor, tucked it into his coat dot, then he stepped back. "I just want to talk," he said. "Come sit in the chair." Rain started again, light at first, then heavier. The clearing looked like something from a dream, the kind where you know you're not supposed to be there. I didn't know what made me do it. Maybe fear, maybe curiosity, maybe some part of me that still wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. I stepped out and followed him into the fog. I stepped slowly into the clearing, the sound of rain muting the world around me. Each step felt like I was crossing a boundary I couldn't come back from. The earth beneath me was soft, almost too soft, like it had recently been disturbed. He walked ahead, calm, as if this were routine, a nightly ritual. The chair stood. In the center, facing nothing. No fire pit, no table, just that one object soaked in rain. "Sit," he said, motioning. "I'd rather stand," I replied, keeping my voice level. He tilted his head again, like he was observing a wild animal, deciding whether to bite or run. Fair enough. He paced in front of me, his boots making squishing sounds in the mud. "I've brought others here," he said, casually. Most of them screamed, some begged. A few even fought like you. "What do you want from me?" I asked. He stopped, looked right into my eyes. To be understood. I didn't know how to respond. Was this some delusion? A test? My breath came faster, but I tried to hide it. I glanced back at the car, still close, but too far if he chased me. I'd seen how fast he moved. "There was a girl," he said, "years ago. She said I looked like someone she trusted. That made me think. How many of us are just faces stitched together from someone else's past?" He kneeled and touched the ground. "You feel it?" he asked. "No." He smiled. "You will." Lightning flashed. For a second, I saw more clearly. Behind the trees, small mounds in the earth. 5, maybe 6. Uneven. Fresh. "What did you do?" I asked. Voice cracking. He stood. Wiped his hands on his coat. "Nothing permanent." "Not yet." I took a step back. He didn't stop me. "You think this ends with you escaping," he said, running to a police station, crying in front of a detective who's already buried too many similar cases. "I'm not like the others," I said. He nodded. "That's what they all say, right before they stop being different." I turned and bolted. Branches whipped my face. Mud grabbed my shoes. But I didn't stop. No screams behind me. No footsteps. Just the forest swallowing sound. I reached the road. Looked back. Nothing. No man. No chair. No car. I ran along the edge blindly. My phone still dead. My heart pounding like it would burst. Then headlights, distant at first. I waved frantically. A truck slowed, pulled over. "Are you okay?" The driver shouted, a middle-aged man with kind eyes. "I need help, please. Someone tried. He locked me in, took me to the woods." He said. "We'll go straight to the sheriff's office." I collapsed into the passenger seat, trembling. He handed me a bottle of water. Name's Carl. Emily. I lied. We drove in silence for a while. Then I noticed it. On his dash, an air freshener. Black Tree. Same scent as the first car. Where did you get this? I asked, pointing to it. He smiled. 5-star rating, right? My blood froze. The doors locked. Again. The click of the doors locking felt louder than the rain. I froze. It wasn't the kind of sound you expect in a moving vehicle, especially when you never touched anything. I turned slowly to Carl. His hands remained steady on the wheel, and his eyes calm, too calm. 5 stars, remember? He said again, voice smooth like oil over water. I didn't answer. My heart was hammering too loudly for words to form. My hand moved instinctively toward the door latch. Nothing. It wouldn't budge. I tried the window. No response. I was sealed in. Carl's smile widened, just slightly. You know, people always assume the worst happens in the middle of nowhere. But I've found it's easier to make someone disappear when they're surrounded by everything. Noise, lights, people too busy to notice. He took a left, not toward my apartment. I knew that route by heart, and this wasn't it. Where are we going? My voice. Cracked. A better place. One where you'll finally understand. The rain picked up. The wipers swished back and forth in a steady rhythm. It sounded like a countdown. Streetlights became sparse. The buildings turned industrial. We passed warehouses, broken windows, chain-link fences. I want to get out, I said, forcing steel into my voice. I'm sure you do, he replied, not slowing. But exits have to be earned. What the hell does that mean? He didn't answer. I scanned the dashboard, looking for anything I could use. My phone was gone. He must have taken it while I was distracted. My purse sat at my feet, but it had been opened. Rifled through. I wasn't just being driven somewhere. I was being taken apart. You know, Carl said, you remind me of someone I once met. A girl who thought she knew fear, until she learned what silence could do to a mind. The true silence. The kind that follows you home. We turned down a road so narrow, the trees brushed both sides of the car. Gravel crunched beneath the tires. The headlights revealed a decaying gate, half collapsed. Beyond it, a building loomed tall, ancient, vines crawling up its face like veins. What is this place? History, he said. A monument, too. Forgotten stories. He stopped the car. The rain now poured in sheets. Carl turned to me fully for the first time. His eyes held something bottomless. You walk in, you walk out. If you're still you. He unlocked the door with a tap on. The console. Only my door. Go. What happens if I don't? He smiled. Then I finished the story for you. With shaking legs, I stepped out into the storm. The door slammed shut behind me. The car didn't move. It sat, idling, lights on, pointed, toward the building like a spotlight. I was on stage, that the front doors of the building were open, or rather, hanging ajar. I pushed them wider, my shoes sinking into the flooded floor. Inside, the air was thick, not just with moisture, with memories old. Hospital beds lined the walls. Rusted metal, stained sheets, machines I couldn't name, silent for decades. I walked forward, the light from outside growing dim. Then I heard it, a whisper, faint, high, a child's voice. I turned sharply. Nothing. Another whisper. Behind me. Now. My breath caught. I don't belong here, I muttered. But you entered. A voice answered, this time clearly. I spun again. A figure stood at the end of the hall, drenched in shadow. Small, still. Who are you? No answer. The lights flickered. There hadn't been power a moment ago. Carl? I shouted. The building responded with creaks and groans. I backed away then. Felt something brush my arm. A girl, pale, soaked, wearing a hospital gown. Her eyes wide, lips blue. "You have to hide," she said. "He doesn't like when they fight." "Who?" "Carl." She shook her head. "The collector." "I don't know what this is." "I died here," she whispered. I stumbled back. No, you didn't. This isn't real." She vanished. Footsteps now. Slow. Measured. Coming from the stairs, I turned and ran corridors stretching endlessly. Rooms filled with decay, with drawings on walls. Children's drawings. Screens scribbled in crayon. I stopped in one room. The bed was pristine, clean, waiting. On the wall, my name. Written over and over. I collapsed. I didn't know what was happening. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't just Carl. This was deeper. I heard the car engine rev. I ran out the door, into the rain. Carl was there, waiting, leaning against the car, calm as ever. "See anything interesting?" he asked. I didn't answer. Some people, when they come back out, they're not themselves anymore. You seem intact, mostly. You're insane. He opened the passenger door. "You can leave or not." I didn't move. "But if you leave," he said, "you leave with it. That place, that whisper, it clings to you. It feeds." I got in, because part of me knew he was right. As we drove off, I looked back. The building was gone. Just trees. Just the road. Carl drove in silence. I cried. I didn't speak as Carl drove. I didn't know how to, not after what I'd seen. Not with my hands still shaking and my eyes darting to the rearview mirror every other second half, expecting to see the girl again. Or worse, to hear her voice echo from the back seat. But there was only silence between us. A silence that stretched, thick and deliberate, until the city lights reappeared in a shimmer behind the drizzle-covered windshield. Carl didn't ask me how I was. He didn't apologize, didn't explain. He just drove, one hand lazily on the wheel, the other resting on the gear shift, like we were two friends returning from a casual drive. I leaned my head against the window. My reflection stared back at me, pale, haunted, unrecognizable. "You've been marked," Carl said suddenly. "You know that now, right?" I swallowed. "What do you mean?" "That building didn't just scare you. It saw you. It knows you." "I don't believe in that kind of thing." "Doesn't matter," he said. "Belief's never been a requirement for consequence." I turned to him, anger bubbling up. "What do you want from me?" He laughed softly. "I already got what I wanted." The rain eased as we entered a quieter part of town. The streets here were lined with small, aging houses and the occasional flicker of a porch light. It was late, but not so late that the world had completely shut down. People still existed beyond the fogged windows and cracked sidewalks. People who didn't know what was happening inside this car. Why me? I asked. Why pick me for this? Carl's gaze didn't move from the road. I don't choose. It does. I just facilitate. I clenched my fists. My breath hitched. You're sick. He tilted his head, considering the insult. Maybe, but even sickness has a purpose. It reveals weakness. And you? You're full of hairline fractures. That sentence hit harder than I expected. I looked down at my trembling hands, then out at the blur of passing trees and telephone poles. He was right. There had always been something broken inside me. I just didn't know it could be weaponized. We turned down a side road, narrow, unlit. My stomach twisted. Where are we going now? You'll see, Carl murmured. No, I'm done. Take me home. He didn't slow down, didn't respond. I reached for the steering wheel, instinctively trying to jerk us off course. He slapped my hand away without effort, eyes still locked on the road. Bad idea? You can't keep doing this to people, I snapped. I don't, he said calmly. Like I said, it does. Ahead, a building materialized through the mist. Smaller than the last, wooden, run down. A faint light flickered in one of the windows. Carl parked. Killed the engine. You need to go inside. No. Then, this doesn't end. He leaned back in his seat and folded his arms. Your choice. I stared at the building, feeling a pressure in my chest, like my lungs had collapsed. Something about it felt familiar, like a place I'd seen in dreams or memories I'd tried to forget. I opened the door. The air outside was colder than before. I stepped onto the gravel, every stone crunching like a warning beneath my shoes. The front door of the house was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. Inside, the house smelled of old wood and mildew. A single lamp burned in the corner, illuminating a living room frozen in time. Dust covered every surface. A cracked photo frame lay face down on the floor. I bent to pick it up. My breath caught. It was a picture of me. But not me as I am now. Me as a child, standing in front of the swing set, eyes wide and mouth slightly open, like I was mid-sentence. Behind me in the photo stood a woman whose face had been scratched out. I dropped it. No, I whispered. No. I walked deeper into the house. Each room I entered felt like a mirror of a past I'd buried. The blue tiles in the bathroom, the chipped kitchen counter, the corner where I used to hide when my parents fought. This was my childhood home, but it had been torn down years ago. I found the basement door. It was open. Stairs led down into darkness. I shouldn't have gone. Every instinct in my body screamed to run, but something stronger pulled me downward. A compulsion, a thread I couldn't break. The basement was lit by a single bare bulb, and in the center stood a table. On it, files, photographs, audio cassettes, all labeled with names I didn't recognize, except one. Mine. I picked up the tape with my name on it, inserted it into the old cassette player beside the stacked. It clicked. And then I heard it. My voice. Crying. Begging. Screaming. A man's voice followed. Calm, gentle, asking questions. What did you see? Where did he go? Why didn't you tell anyone? I backed away. Memories came flooding, backflashes of a man in the attic, of whispers through the vents, of a door I was told never to open. I remembered a scream, then silence. Then years of forgetting. Carl appeared at the top of the stairs. You buried it well, he said, but it never left. I collapsed to my knees. What are you doing to me? I'm not doing anything, he said. This is all you. You brought us here. I stared at the tape, the sound of my younger self, still crying, echoing from the speakers. I don't want this, I said. But it wants you. Carl descended the stairs slowly, step by step. The first step to healing is remembering. But not everyone survives that step. The lights flickered. The player stopped. And something moved in the shadows behind me. Not Carl. Not me. Something else. Breathing. Watching. Waiting. Asterisk. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Whatever was behind me in that basement wasn't meant to be seen, at least not by anyone still wishing to remain sane. The air shifted, heavy with decay, and something else, something more ancient than rot. My child voice still, crackled faintly from the cassette player, then cut into silence with a sudden click, like it had never been there. I was left only with my own ragged breathing and the echo of the past pounding inside my head. You need to look, Carl's voice came from above, calm. I could hear him descending the basement stairs. Each creak of the wooden steps sounded like the ticking of a clock I didn't know was counting down. I closed my eyes and braced myself, but the presence didn't move. Instead, it waited, breathing with me, sinking itself to my lungs. I could feel it watching. And then it whispered, "Remember." Just one word, but it struck my bones like a tuning fork. My eyes flew open, and suddenly the basement wasn't empty anymore. There were drawings on the walls, crayon scrawls I hadn't noticed before, stick figures, red scribbles, black eyes, a house, a figure in the attic window. Me, always alone, always smaller than the others. Then I saw a page pinned to the wooden beam near the ceiling, torn from a notebook, my own handwriting. "Don't trust the man who smiles too much." And beneath it, another. "He comes when I cry." I began to tremble. "What is this?" I whispered. "Your truth," Carl said. He stood now beside me, not as a driver, not as a stranger, but as someone who had always been there. A shadow in my memories. A figure I had erased from photographs and thoughts. "You're not real," I said, voice cracking. "You're not even human," he smiled. "Neither are you, not in the way you think." I staggered back from him, colliding with the table, the edge digging into my spine. Something brushed past my ankle cold, soft, wet. I looked down and saw nothing, but I felt its presence circling me. "You were chosen because you already belonged to this place," Carl said. "You were part of it. You made a deal before. You ever understood what deals were?" I began to cry without meaning to. Tears ran hot and fast down my cheeks as I clutched my own arms like they could hold me together. "I didn't choose this." "No," he said, "but you fed it. Every forgotten nightmare, every lie you told yourself about the attic, every scream you ignored when it came from inside your own chest. You're not just a victim, you're a door." I turned and finally looked behind me, and I saw it. Number. Face, no shape, just black, shifting, sentient black. It wasn't a creature. It was a collection of everything I had refused to feel. Pain, shame, fear. A massive psychic tar that dripped from the corners of the room, touching everything with grief. "I'm not going to let this consume me," I said. Carl only stepped aside. It already has. That's when the room changed. Or rather, the house changed. The floorboards beneath my feet gave way to the carpet of my childhood bedroom. The air smelled like old books and sour milk. The walls shrank in around me. The cassette player was now a toy piano. The photos were drawings taped to the fridge. My knees buckled. I was 7 again. Alone, the door to the attic creaked. I didn't move. I knew what was coming. The door opened fully this time. Steps child-sized padded down the stairs. A girl emerged. Not a ghost. Not a hallucination. Me, the smaller version of myself I'd buried. She looked up at me with wide, unblinking eyes. "Why did you forget me?" I shook my head. "I didn't mean to." "But you did. And when you forgot, you let him in." Her voice trembled not with fear, but with anger. She stepped closer. "I screamed every night, and you acted like it was just the wind." "I didn't know how to protect you," I said. "I didn't know how to deal with any of it." "You still don't." And with that, she crumbled into ash, gone in a blink. Only her shoes remained, tiny, worn, covered in dust. The attic door slammed. Carl was gone. The room stretched and bent like a funhouse mirror. The house was swallowing itself. I ran. Through the hallway, past the kitchen, through the door that used to lead to the backyard. Only now, it led to darkness. Pure, roaring, screaming darkness. I stepped through anyway, and fell. I don't know how long I fell. It felt like hours, years, lifetimes, until I landed in a cold metal seat. A car. The car. Carl sat at the wheel. Looking forward. The city was back. People walking. Streetlights blinking. The world unchanged. Except I was. He turned slowly to me. 5 stars? I didn't answer. He smiled. You made it further than most. I opened the door and stumbled. Out. The sidewalk was wet with fresh rain. Cars honked in the distance. My legs barely held me. I turned around to confront him. But the car was gone. No tire tracks. No sound. Nothing. I walked home, but it didn't feel like home anymore. The apartment was untouched, my bed unmade, my phone still on the charger. A voicemail notification blinked a dot. I pressed play dot. It was me, sobbing, screaming, saying things I don't remember recording. Please don't take me back there, my voice cried. Please, I'll be good. I swear I'll forget. I'll forget. It all again. And in the background, a voice. Too late. Then silence dot, then the whisper. 5 stars. Now I sleep with the lights on. I don't use ride-share apps. I don't even take the bus. Because sometimes, when the wind howls just right, I hear that door unlocking again in the back of my mind. I hear Carl's voice, polite, calm, inevitable. And I remember the deal I never knew I made. I remember what lives beneath memory, beneath skin, beneath the basement of the house I thought was long gone. The house I was born in. The house that never left me. You can rate your driver. But what do you rate the part of yourself that let him in? 5 stars? Or none? I don't know anymore. I just know I'll never forget again. Even if I wanted to. Even if forgetting is the only way to stay sane. Because I heard something else on that tape. Something I haven't told anyone. After the crying stopped. After my voice faded. A whisper. From me dot as a child. Saying, with absolute certainty, I hope we come back. It started with a ping dot another ride request. Just like the hundreds before it. The app showed the pickup location. A quiet street on the edge of town, near where the forest presses up against the back roads, like a shadow waiting to breathe. Name listed for the rider was just Anna. No last name. No profile picture. I pulled up to the curb, headlights slicing through the mist, and saw a figure already standing there. She was motionless, facing away from me, dressed in a pale dress that fluttered gently, even though there was no wind. My dashboard clock blinked 2:47 a.m. I unlocked the doors. She moved without turning her head, her silhouette sliding into the back seat like a ripple in still water. The interior lights flickered for a split second as the door clicked shut. Anna? I asked, twisting slightly in my seat. She didn't respond, just nodded. Or at least, I thought she nodded. I wasn't sure anymore. The app confirmed the ride had started, but no destination was listed. That wasn't unusual. Some passengers preferred to give directions verbally. Still, the silence lingered too long, thick as the fog pressing in from outside. Where to? I asked again. She didn't speak. Instead, her hand slowly emerged from the shadows of the back seat, pointing forward. Not at the GPS, not at the road, just forward. I hesitated. Something about her presence made the air colder. Heavier, began to drive. The streetlights faded as we entered a wooded stretch of highway. My headlights illuminated trees that leaned too close to the road, their branches clawing at the night. Like desperate hands. I glanced at the rearview mirror. She was still there, but something had shifted. Her reflection was wrong dot in the mirror. Her face was clearer than it should have been. Pale, eyes dark and hollow. But when I peeked back over my shoulder, her features blurred, like smoke refusing to form. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. You okay back there? I asked, trying to sound casual. She whispered something, a sound like leaves scraping across pavement. I couldn't understand it, but it felt like a warning, not a request. A cold drop of sweat traced down my spine. I tried to turn on the radio, anything to break the silence, but all I got was static. Harsh, warbling static, like a broken transmission from another world. I turned the dial, scanned every station. Nothing. Not even the usual late-night talk shows or gospel preachers. Only noise. And the sound of her breathing. We passed a road sign I didn't recognize, even though I'd driven this way hundreds of times. Devil's Hollow RD, it read. A name that didn't show on my app. I slowed down, debating if I should turn around. But then I looked in the mirror again. Her mouth was moving, whispering. The sound vibrated behind my eyes. Almost there. I hadn't said a word. Almost where? I asked. She leaned forward. Her hand reached between the seats. Ice-cold fingers brushed my shoulder. I flinched. Home? She said. I blinked. My GPS had rerouted. The destination now showed up, but it wasn't an address. Just one word. Home. I pulled off the road, tires crunching gravel as we turned into a narrow path, lined with trees so tall they blocked the stars. My high beams lit up a dilapidated gate, swinging open on rusted hinges. Beyond it, a crumbling house leaned into them. Darkness, its windows like black eyes. She spoke again. They're waiting. I stopped the car. I'm sorry, I said, my voice trembling. I can't take you here. I need to cancel this ride. I turned to her. She wasn't in the seat anymore. My heart seized. The door hadn't opened. No chime, no movement. She was just gone. Except she wasn't, because I felt her breath on my neck. I turned slowly and saw her, not in the car, but reflected in every window, every mirror, surrounding me like an echo of herself. Her eyes were wide, mouth stretched into a grin that didn't match any human emotion I'd ever known. You brought me home, she said from everywhere and nowhere. I opened. The door stumbled out into the night. My breath fogged the air. I ran to the gate, but it slammed shut behind me, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silent forest. I turned to run, but the path was gone, just trees, and fog, and silence, and the sound of a car engine idling behind me. I looked back. My car was still running, headlights casting long, cruel shadows. And she was back inside, in the back seat, waiting for me. The app pinged again. Continue ride? My screen wouldn't let me press cancel. Only yes. My fingers moved on their own, and the car door creaked open. Asterisk, it was hard to believe. What I had seen, even harder to admit that I hadn't imagined it. But I hadn't. I knew what I saw. The silhouette in the back seat was real. The chill was real. And the voice that whispered my name. I wasn't losing my mind. I drove the rest of the night in silence. No music, no podcasts, no distractions. Just me and the low hum of the engine. Every glance in the rearview mirror felt like a gamble. Would I see her again? Would she be sitting there, silently watching? When the shift ended, I parked in my driveway and sat for a while, staring at the house. I didn't want to go inside. What if she followed me home? Eventually, exhaustion won. I stumbled into the house, dropped my keys on the counter, and collapsed on the couch. I didn't even make it to the bed. I dreamed of headlights cutting through. Fog, a figure standing in the road, and a voice, faint, pleading, repeating a single word over and over. Help. The next day, I checked my phone. Nothing unusual. No new voicemails, no missed calls, no canceled rides. It was as if the night before hadn't happened, but it had. I decided to investigate. I pulled up my trip logs from the rideshare app, scrolling through the list of fares. Nothing stood out until I reached the entry from 12:17 a.m. Passenger, unknown. Pickup, Cemetery Road. Drop-off, unlisted. My heart dropped. There was no fare listed, no route map, just a timestamp and those vague details. I contacted the app's support line. After being bounced between agents, one finally answered. "I'm trying to report a discrepancy," I said. "There's a ride in my history with no passenger name and no fare." The agent was quiet for a moment. "Can I put you on a brief hold?" A few minutes passed. When she returned, her tone had changed. "Sir, that trip doesn't exist on our servers. Are you sure it's showing in your app?" "Yes, it's right here. I can send a screenshot." More silence. "That won't be necessary. Sometimes ghost. Data populates due to app latency or connectivity issues. Try uninstalling and reinstalling. Ghost data." I almost laughed. Fitting. I hung up. I didn't uninstall the app. That night, I drove again. Part of me hoped it was over, that maybe it had been a glitch in the app, in my brain, in reality. But at 12:17 a.m. sharp, my phone VIBRATED.new ride request. Pick up at Cemetery Road. I didn't accept it. I stared at the screen, heart racing. The request hung there for a full minute before disappearing dot, and then my backseat door unlocked. I hadn't touched anything. My hands were still gripping the steering wheel. Yet I heard the familiar click, the lock sliding open. I turned around, nothing. I reached behind me and locked the doors again, manually this time. I didn't drive anymore that night. Instead, I parked near a gas station, under the glare of halogen lights, and waited for the sun. Over the next week, things got worse. I started hearing her voice, even when I wasn't driving. I'd be brushing my teeth and hear my name whispered behind me. I'd be cooking and feel a presence standing just outside my line of sight. Always at the edge. Never fully there, but unmistakably real. I thought I was going insane. One evening, while browsing local news articles, I came across an old story. A girl named Lila Henderson who vanished in the early 2000s. She had last been seen near Cemetery Road, walking home after a party. Her body was never found. The article included a photo. My blood turned to ice. It was her. The face from the mirror, the voice in my ear. I dug deeper. Obituaries, forums, archived police reports. Her case had gone cold. But online, there were rumors. People said her spirit lingered, that drivers sometimes saw her on foggy nights, that she was trying to get home. Some even claimed she had gotten into their cars. I had to do something. I went back to Cemetery Road. It was late. The fog was thick, curling around the trees like smoke. I parked where I had before and waited. Midnight passed. Then 12:15. 12:17. A figure appeared in the mist. She didn't wave this time. She didn't smile. She simply opened the door and sat down. I didn't look at her. "Where are you going?" I asked. No answer. I started driving. I didn't enter a destination in the GPS. I just drove. Miles passed. Roads blurred together. She never spoke, never moved, just sat there. Eventually, I reached a part of town I hadn't seen in years, the old neighborhood where I grew up. Without thinking, I pulled onto the street where my childhood home used to be, but it wasn't there anymore. In its place stood a dark, empty lot. She finally spoke. "This is where I died." I turned to face her. Her eyes weren't angry. They weren't sad. They were hollow. She vanished before my eyes. The seat was empty. The car was cold, and I was alone. I tried to tell myself it was closure, that she had been waiting for someone to bring her back, to remember her. to listen. But that wasn't the end, because the next night, at exactly 12:17 a.m., my phone lit up *** new ride request. Pick up at Cemetery Road. It was supposed to be over. I kept telling myself that, gripping the steering wheel tighter, the cold sweat on my back, soaking through my shirt as the night refused to pass. But the empty seat behind me told another story. I hadn't driven since that night. I had left the car untouched, parked on the far end of my apartment complex where no one would ask questions. But now something was wrong in my own home. I kept hearing the clicking again, the same sound that echoed from the back seat when she vanished. Only now, it was coming from the hallway, just past the door to my bedroom. Click, click, like fingernails gently tapping the wall. I held my breath and moved toward the door with slow, deliberate steps, each creaking floorboard reminding me I wasn't dreaming. I pushed the door open. Nothing. Just the dim hallway bathed in the yellow hue of a flickering ceiling light. But I knew something was off. My apartment didn't feel empty, and then I saw a dot, not directly, just barely. A reflection in the window across the hall. A shape. Someone sitting in the back seat of my parked car. Not moving. Just sitting there. I felt like my lungs collapsed. It couldn't be real. The car had been locked for days. I ran down the stairs, out the door, toward the car. I didn't stop to think. I needed to prove to myself it wasn't real, that I was just exhausted, paranoid. But as I got closer, I saw the condensation on the inside of the windows. The kind of fog you see when someone's been breathing inside a closed vehicle. I stood frozen, keys shaking in my hand, and then the dome light flickered on, without me unlocking anything. Just flickered, as if triggered by a door opening. But the doors were still shut. I approached slowly. My fingers fumbled with the key, unlocking the car with a nervous press. The click echoed louder than it should have. I yanked the door open, empty, no one, except the back seat. It was wet, not soaked. Just like someone had been sitting there in a soaked dress. The seat darkened. Damp. My breathing grew ragged. I backed away, hands shaking, and slammed the door. The dome light went out, but the radio turned on. Static, full volume. I hadn't touched the ignition. I ran back to my apartment without looking back. The dream started that night. I saw her face. Not the one from the rideshare. Not the living, confused, frightened girl I had picked up. No, this was something else. Her face, pale, stretched, her mouth twisted open in a soundless scream. Eyes black, like holes punched into porcelain. She didn't move in my dreams, just stared. Closer each time I blinked, I stopped sleeping. I even tried reaching out to the rideshare app. I needed to know anything. But when I logged in, the record of that ride was gone. Completely scrubbed. No name, no time. As if it never happened. I checked my dash cam. Footage corrupted. Of course, only one frame remained clear, the moment before she got out. Her hand on the door. But her reflection in the side window was smiling. And not at me. It was smiling toward the street. That was when I realized she wasn't alone. That night, I left the car running. I stepped outside, determined to erase everything. Fire. I poured gasoline along the seats and lit a match. It flared bright. For a second, I felt relief, but then I heard it again. The clicking from behind me. Inside my apartment. How could that be possible? I turned, the flames lighting the night behind me, only to see my front door slowly swing shut. And now I'm sitting here, not inside, not out there, somewhere in between. She never left. And neither did I. Would you believe me if I said the passenger is still riding with me? Because when I check my rearview mirror, sometimes I see eyes, watching, waiting, smiling, asterisk, I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me anyway? My friends already thought I was spiraling. One even offered me a therapist's number after I told them I hadn't slept in days. But it wasn't insomnia. It wasn't guilt. It was her. I could feel her in the corners of my apartment, like she had soaked into the walls. I kept the lights on, kept music playing, but there was no drowning it out. The static always found a way back in. I started hearing voices in it, faint, childlike whispers buried in the white noise. Sometimes it was laughter, sometimes a low humming that mimicked my own heartbeat. I checked every speaker in the apartment, unplugged them. The sound didn't stop. It came from the air itself. I thought of leaving town, just packing up and going anywhere far. But when I tried to book a ride to the station, every app said the same thing. No drivers available. Except one. Her name, Emma. She was the passenger, not the driver. My hand trembled over the screen. I canceled it. Tried again. A different app. Same result. Same name. Same face. I threw the phone across the room. Later that night, I found it on my pillow, unlocked, screen glowing. The app was open again. Emma is arriving. I locked my doors, barricaded them with chairs. I sat in the kitchen with a knife and my back to the wall. My eyes fought to stay open, but I must have dozed off, because when I woke up, the front door was wide open, and the car was idling outside. I didn't move. I couldn't. My legs had gone numb from fear. The headlights beamed directly into my window. The engine purred like it had never turned off. I crawled to the hallway and peeked out. There was a shape in the driver's seat. Long hair. Still. Waiting. I called the police. They never showed up. I called again. The line crackled. And then I heard it. 5 stars, right? It was her voice. From the first ride. I hung up. I ran to the bedroom, locked the door, and climbed into the closet. I buried myself under clothes, knees pulled to my chest, trying to make myself invisible. That's when I heard the door open downstairs. Slow steps. Careful. Bare feet against tile. She was inside. I heard humming. That same broken, childlike melody. It grew louder as the steps reached the stairs. My breath caught in my throat. I dared not move. The steps paused outside the bedroom door. Silence. Then, scratching. Slow, deliberate scraping of fingernails against wood. I nearly screamed. Then the knob turned. The bedroom door creaked open. I could see a faint shadow moving under the closet crack. Closer, closer. And then, nothing. Silence. No footsteps. No breathing. Just silence so dense, it rang in my ears. Minutes passed. Then hours. I finally opened the door. The bedroom was empty, but the closet behind me wasn't. I turned and saw her. Not a full figure, just her eyes, reflected in the mirror behind the clothes. 2 black wells of absence, staring at me like a predator sizing up its prey. And then I blinked, and she was gone. But the clothes still swayed as if someone had just brushed past them. Didn't sleep after that. Didn't eat. Didn't shower. I stopped being a person and started being a shadow of myself. My world became silent except for her. Until last night. Something changed. I woke up to find myself sitting in the back seat of my own car. Not dreaming, not hallucinating. I was there, and she was driving. Her eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. She smiled, and I screamed. Her smile held something ancient, not joy, not mockery, but an echo of something older than pain. The kind of smile you see in dreams that don't belong to you. I slammed my fists against the glass but it didn't budge. My own door wouldn't open. None of them would. I wasn't bound, and I might as well have been chained. The world outside the window was all wrong. The streets were stretched, empty, glowing dim under an endless dusk. We weren't in my city anymore. We weren't. Anywhere. I begged, screamed, cursed. She never blinked. Just kept driving through that nowhere space, humming that same tune. My nails left scratches on the back window as I clawed at it like an animal, but she never stopped. Not until she reached the place Dot. It wasn't a house, that it wasn't a building, Dot. It was a structure of black wood and rusted metal, buried in fog, with windows that stared like hollow eyes. The car stopped. The engine died. Her head turned slowly, like a puppet on a string, and her voice, quiet and broken, said, "We're home." I shook my head, tears choking my throat, but my hand reached for the door anyway. Not because I wanted to, because I had no choice. Something was guiding me. Something deep, old, pulling strings beneath my skin. The door opened. She didn't move. I stepped out. The air was heavy, like walking into molasses. Every step toward that structure felt like dragging a body uphill. My own. The door creaked open by itself. I entered. Inside, there were mirrors. Hundreds of them. Tall, cracked, warped. They lined the hall like sentinels, and in each one, I wasn't alone. I saw her Dot in every reflection. Standing just behind me Dot in some, she was smiling. In others, she was crying. But in all of them, she looked more alive than I did Dot. And then I realized I wasn't in the reflections anymore, Dot, just her. I looked down at my hands. They were fading, pale, translucent. I screamed. The building groaned with the sound of 100 voices crying out in pain. And I saw them, faces in the mirrors, boys and girls, men and women, all passengers. All trapped Dot. She was collecting us Dot one ride at a time. The truth hit me like a freight train. I wasn't the first. I wouldn't be the last, but I wasn't done. Yet, I turned and ran Dot out of the house, into the fog. The car was gone. The road was gone. The sky itself was gone Dot, just that endless dusk and an echo of tires rolling behind me. I ran until I collapsed. I woke up in my bed Dot sunlight, Dot silence, Dot no car. No Emma, no mirrors. I thought I had escaped until I looked in the mirror. She was behind me Dot smiling, Dot again, Dot. And now I see her everywhere Dot, not just in mirrors, Dot in puddles, in shadows, in glass doors. She's watching me Dot, waiting Dot sometimes. I get into ride shares and the app says a different name. A normal name. A normal face. But when the car arrives, it's always her Dot, no matter how many times I delete the app, Dot, no matter how many times. I change my phone. She's still my default driver, and the destination is always the same Dot home Dot, but it's not my own Dot, it's hers Dot. So if you ever find yourself alone, waiting on a rideshare in the dark, and a car pulls up with no license plate, and a woman with long dark hair smiles too wide before asking, 5 stars, right? Dot, 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 Don, single quotes T. Get in Dot, no matter how tired you are Dot, no matter how late it is Dot, because once you sit down and that door locks, you'll never ride alone again. It was supposed to be my last ride of the night. A short trip through a quiet neighborhood just before midnight. I remember checking the destination only 15 minutes away. Enough to wrap up the shift, grab a drive-through coffee, and head home. When her name popped up on the app, Amber R., I didn't think anything of it. Her profile picture was normal. A soft smile, dark hair, probably in her early 20s. Nothing unusual. She climbed into the back seat with a polite nod and buckled her seatbelt. She didn't say much, just hi, and then I'll let you know if I need to change the stop. I gave a half smile in the mirror, like I always do, and started driving. The GPS lit up with the familiar blue line and a calm voice telling me to take a left in 200 feet. I followed it without thinking. The streets were empty, the houses dark. Just the soft hum of the tires and the occasional glow of a porch light flickering by. A few minutes into the ride, the voice on the GPS glitched. Just for a second, it cut off mid-sentence, like it choked on the next direction. I waited for it to correct itself, but it didn't. The screen froze. Then it went black dot. I tapped the dashboard. Nothing. I pulled my phone off the mount. The map had closed itself, and no matter how many times I reopened the app, it refused to load. I glanced in the rearview mirror to apologize. Amber wasn't looking at her phone. She wasn't even looking out the window. She was staring straight ahead. At me. I smiled awkwardly. Sorry, just need a second to get the route back up. She nodded once, slowly. That's okay. Just keep going. You're on the right road. I hesitated. You sure? Yes. Her voice was soft, but something about it didn't match her mouth. Like it echoed, just slightly delayed. I put the phone back on the mount and drove on, following the winding road through thickening trees. The houses became fewer, the streetlights rarer. The air felt heavier. My knuckles tightened on the wheel. I glanced back again. She hadn't moved. But something had Dot. It wasn't just her back there anymore. I couldn't see clearly, but there was a shift in the shadows, like someone was sitting beside her. I blinked and adjusted the mirror, but when I focused again, she was alone. I tried to shake the unease. Maybe I was just tired. It had been a long shift. I told myself that. Then she spoke. They used to live here, you know. I frowned. Who? She didn't answer. I kept driving. About 5 minutes later, I started to hear them. Voices, whispering. I assumed it was her, talking on the phone. But when I looked back, she wasn't holding one. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap. Still, the voices continued, murmured words like prayers or confessions. Low but urgent. I turned the music off. The whispers got louder. Not from her Dot, from the seat beside her. I stared at the empty space next to Amber, heart racing. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. Someone was there. I could hear breathing. Shallow, rapid. Hey, is everything okay back there? I asked. My voice cracked. Amber looked at me through the mirror. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. There, not talking to you. My foot hovered over the brake. Who's not talking to me? She blinked slowly. The children. A chill crawled up my spine. I laughed nervously. Okay, seriously. Is this some kind of prank? She didn't smile. They don't like to be ignored. Suddenly, the dome light flickered on. I hadn't touched anything. Amber didn't move. The whispering turned into soft crying. Then giggles. Children's giggles. Light. The lighted Dot, and then something knocked from inside the trunk. I swerved. Jesus. I hissed, pulling over. I jumped out of the car and rushed to the back. I flung open the trunk. Empty Dot, just my emergency. Kit, an old blanket, a half-empty bottle of windshield fluid. Nothing else, Dot, but the crying was louder now. Not from the trunk. From the back seat, I slammed it shut and stepped to the side door. Amber sat still, but now her head was turned toward the empty seat. Her lips were moving. She was talking to someone, but no one was there. Opened the door. The crying stopped. Amber turned to me with wide eyes. You shouldn't have done that. Done what? She didn't answer. She just looked at me. And then she smiled, but it wasn't hers. That smile didn't belong on a 20-something woman, Dot. It was older, worn, like something that had been smiling for years. I backed away. I think I need to end the ride here, I said. She nodded. It's too late now. I didn't understand what she meant, but something told me to run. I got back in the front seat and hit end trip on the app, but the screen just spun. No signal. No option to cancel. The engine wouldn't start. The dashboard lights dimmed, then flared red. Amber's door opened. She stepped out, but the other door opened too. The one that had been empty. And for the briefest second, I saw a child's foot step onto the pavement. Bare, dirty. I blinked. It was gone. Amber was gone. No trace. But the back door was still open, and the giggling had returned. From inside my car, I slammed it shut, started the engine by sheer luck or miracle, and drove away, tires screeching. No GPS, no directions. Just the sound of laughter behind me. And in the mirror, child's handprint on the glass. Asterisk. The gas station was lit like a dying star, flickering, buzzing, empty. I parked near the pump, threw the gear into park, and sat there, hands frozen on the wheel. My chest was tight. The air was thick. Every instinct in me screamed not to look into the rearview mirror. But I did. Nothing. No one. Just that same back seat. That same seatbelt still clipped in place, unmoved. And yet, I knew what I'd heard. I stepped out of the car, the cold slapping my skin like punishment. The silence outside was worse than the voices. The world felt paused. The pump didn't beep. The air didn't move. The shadows stayed still, like they were watching. I went inside the station. An old man stood behind the counter, eyes sunk deep, like they were trying to escape his face. He didn't speak, just stared. I began, voice brittle. Can I use your phone? He said nothing, but after a long beat, he pointed to a landline on the wall near the coffee machine. I dialed dispatch. It rang once before going dead. No click, no static, just silence. Does it work? I asked. The old man didn't answer. Instead, he slowly raised his hand and pointed outside toward my car. I turned. In the backseat window, I saw her, a girl, hair, black and tangled like seaweed, eyes wide and glassy. Her lips were moving, but I couldn't hear anything. I ran out, yanked open the back door. Empty. I fell to my knees, breath gone, stomach turning over like a storm surge. The seat was warm. The smell, damp earth, old roses, something dead. I slammed the door shut and stood, fists clenched. Is this a joke? I shouted into the cold. What do you want? No answer. Just the buzzing lights. Just the same damn stillness. Back inside, the old man had vanished. I swear to you, he was just gone. Not in the bathroom. Not in any office. Just gone like dust. On wind. I didn't wait. I jumped into the car and sped away, tires screaming as they tore from the asphalt. The GPS flickered back on by itself. It didn't say a word. It just showed a road. No labels. No towns. No ETA. Just a glowing blue line, leading somewhere I didn't know. But I followed. I don't know why. Maybe I thought it would end this. Maybe I was too scared not to. The farther I drove, the stranger the world became. Houses blinked out of sight behind me. Streetlights died. The road narrowed until it was barely a trail of pavement. And then, the GPS spoke again. Turn left. There was no left. Just woods. Thick. Black. Endless. But I turned. The path was barely wide enough for the car. Branches scraped the sides like fingers trying to stop me. And then the voices returned. Not one, not two. A chorus. Children, women, old men. Whispering, crying, laughing in that sharp, hollow way that drills into your bones. Why didn't you? Help us? One voice asked. You left us here, said another. We trusted you, whispered a third. I shouted, I don't know you. I didn't do anything. The whispers fell silent, Dot, and then came a single voice right in my ear. You brought us here. I slammed on the brakes. My heart was beating like a war drum. I looked in the mirror, Dot, nothing, Dot. I looked out the window, Dot, there, Dot. A house, Dot, old. Abandoned. Windows boarded. Paint peeling. The GPS blinked once Dot arrived. Dot, my hands moved on their own. I got out. The air was thick with rot. The house exhaled decay. I walked to the porch. The boards groaned beneath me like they recognized me. The front door opened before I touched. It, Dot, inside was cold, not just temperature memory. It felt like sorrow had been soaked into the walls, like screams had stained the ceiling. A girl's shoe sat in the corner. A red ribbon lay on the stairs. Stepped inside, and the door slammed, shut behind me. I didn't run. I couldn't, Dot. It was like the house held me in place, as if every breath I took was filtered through its walls. The darkness wasn't empty. It pulsed, like it was breathing with me. Or instead of me, I reached for my phone. Number. Signal. Of course. The screen glitched and flashed for a moment, Dot, and then I saw it, Dot, my wallpaper had changed. It wasn't my dog anymore. Dot, it was a blurry photo of the back seat of my car, and sitting in it was that girl, head tilted, Dot, eyes open, staring. Straight at me, Dot. I dropped the phone, the crack echoing through the hollow room like a gunshot. But even after it hit the ground, the image stayed burned in my vision. Dot, there were footsteps upstairs, Dot, slow, Dot, measured, Dot, I didn't move. A second said, join, them, lighter, childlike, Dot, and then a third, dragging. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that if I saw what was upstairs, I wouldn't come back the same. But I moved anyway. The stairs moaned under my weight. Each step creaked, like it had a name. Guilt, fear, regret, denial. I reached the top. The hallway stretched like a spine, cracked and narrow, lined with doorways gaping like broken mouths. I opened the first door, Dot, an empty room, but not silent. There was a lullaby playing, Dot, no source, just floating in the air. The second room held dolls, hundreds of them, all facing the wall, except one. One stared straight at me, glass eyes reflecting my face, but not my face. It was older, sunken, broken. I shut the door. The third room, I shouldn't have opened, Dot. It was covered in photos, Dot, floor to ceiling. All of me, Dot, driving, Dot, sleeping, Dot, eating, Dot, laughing, Dot, every moment. I thought was private, documented and pinned, Dot, and in every single photo, somewhere in the background, that girl, Dot, watching, Dot, sometimes in a window, Dot, sometimes in a mirror, sometimes right behind me. I fell back, stumbled into the hall, gagging on air that felt suddenly too thin. The hallway was longer, now, Dot, stretched, Dot, like time was unraveling, Dot, at the very end. A door stood closed, painted red. I didn't remember seeing it before, but I walked to it, Dot. My hand trembled as I reached for the knob, Dot. It turned too easily, Dot. Inside was a single bed, and on that bed was me, Dot, eyes closed, Dot, pale, Dot, hands folded, Dot, still, Dot, dead. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The version of me on the bed slowly opened its eyes and whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." The world twisted, Dot, the floor fell, and I landed in the front seat of my car like I had never left, except my clothes were wet with something thick and dark, and in the passenger seat, a red ribbon, Dot, the same as the one from the stairs. I started the car. The engine coughed, then roared to life. The GPS flickered back on, Dot. It no longer had a destination. Dot, it just said one word: run. I drove like hell was behind me. Because maybe it was. The forest blurred past. The road cracked and buckled beneath my tires. The sky above was wrong, colorless, and close, like I could reach up and touch the void. The voices returned. This time, not in whispers. They screamed, begged, accused, double quotes. Why did you forget? Why did you leave us? You promised you'd help. Faces appeared in the mirrors, flickering, familiar, a girl from a case I worked on years ago. A man I passed by on the street. A child who waved at me once at a crosswalk, all gone. All here, all asking why. I screamed back. I didn't know. I didn't know what you needed. Silence, and then one voice, the same girl. She whispered, but we knew what you needed. I swerved, off the road, into a ditch. The car flipped once, twice. Metal crunched. Glass exploded. And then, stillness. I opened my eyes. Or maybe I just thought I did. The car was upright, untouched, like nothing had happened. But I wasn't behind the wheel anymore. I was in the back seat and sitting in the front. Was me, but not me, someone wearing my face, driving my car, and smiling. The GPS beeped. Proceed to the route. Asterisk, I blinked once, twice, trying to process the impossible sight in front of me. Me, sitting in the driver's seat, one hand on the wheel, the other adjusting the mirror, like nothing was wrong. Like I wasn't trapped in the back seat, watching myself drive. My reflection in the mirror didn't match my eyes. It wasn't confusion or fear in that face. It was satisfaction. Calm, too calm. I pressed my palms against the back of the seat and whispered, "Stop the car." The version of me didn't flinch, didn't even seem to hear. The road outside looked unfamiliar now. There were no street signs, no landmarks. The trees were leafless and sharp, their branches curving in unnatural directions like they were reaching for the car. Everything outside was muted, like the color had been drained from the world. A whisper brushed my ear. You left the door open. I turned around. There was no one behind me, but the door handle on my side twitched. Then it clicked open by itself. Wind blasted inside, cold and electric, and something I couldn't see tugged at my clothes like it wanted to pull me out. I slammed the door shut. It locked automatically. From the front seat, I turned up the radio. Static. Then a voice. Not mine. Not human. Just one word. Looping. Return. I screamed, lunging forward, grabbing at the driver myself. My hands passed through, like fog, like smoke. The figure behind the wheel finally looked at me. Its face was wrong. Mine that aged, distorted eyes too wide, mouth too still. Weren't supposed to come back, it said, in my voice but broken, slowed, as if dragged through gravel. What is this? I shouted. Who are you? You, it said. The version of you that never left. I don't understand. You will. And then the world outside the windshield changed. Suddenly, we were parked in front of my childhood home. Except it wasn't right. The paint peeled like skin. Windows black, as if the house were blind, and the door half open. I never brought you here, I said. But the figure just smiled and vanished. Gone. I was in the front seat now. Alone. My hands on the wheel. The key already in the vault. Ignition. But the car was off, and the silence outside was suffocating. Something deep inside me told me not to enter the house, but my legs moved anyway. The moment I stepped outside, the air changed. Heavy, thick, like I was walking through water. That I approached the door. Each step echoed, too loud, like the ground was hollow. I pushed the door. It swung open on its own. The house swallowed me whole. Inside, it was colder than I remembered. The furniture was draped in sheets, but each one had the shape of something alive. Beneath it, none of them moved. Yet, I couldn't look away. There were photos on the walls. They had changed, not of my family anymore. All of them were of me, a child, a teen, an adult, moments I remembered. But there was something wrong with each photo dot in every single one. My eyes were scratched out. I heard a creak upstairs, a slow, dragging sound. I didn't want to go, but my body moved. Like it had a script, it was following Dot step by step. I ascended. Each stair let out a groan, like it remembered my weight Dot at the top. The hallway was longer than I remembered, unnaturally long. Only one door was open Dot my old bedroom. Stepped in Dot and froze. On the bed sat a figure Dot small Dot motionless Dot wrapped. In a sheet Dot it looked up. A child's face Dot mine Dot age 6 Dot pale Dot eyes black as night. You left me here, it whispered. I didn't know, I said, voice cracking. You forgot. It said Dot, then it stood, walked to me Dot, and placed its tiny hand on my chest. You need to remember now. The moment it touched me, the room dissolved, and I was back in the car, back seat again. But this time, there was someone else in the front. Not me. A woman, her face hidden beneath long black hair. She turned slowly, showing just a sliver of a mouth, Dot smiling Dot, and in her voice, low and ancient, she said, now you drive. The keys appeared in my hand, Dot the engine roared Dot, and the GPS whispered, proceed to your final destination. The roads lit up Dot, not with lights, but with fire, and I drove. I drove through flame-lined roads that didn't burn the car, didn't touch the tires, but licked at the edges of my vision, daring me to flinch. The wheel felt different, now like it was alive beneath my hands, breathing, pulsing, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The voice from the GPS had stopped speaking, but the route was still lit in that orange, hellish glow. Every turn was instinctual now. I wasn't even thinking. Just a bang. The woman in the front seat didn't move. She didn't need to. Her presence alone distorted the space around her, like the air was thicker near her, bending reality. The strands of her hair remained motionless, even when we turned sharply, even when wind rushed through a crack in the window. And beneath that hair, I knew there was no face. Just void. I passed buildings I didn't recognize, signs and languages I'd never learned, people frozen mid-step on sidewalks that twisted upward toward the sky like staircases to nowhere. The stars above blinked erratically, not with light, but like eyes watching, cataloging, remembering me Dot. My hands trembled on the wheel, but I couldn't stop. Not even when the road became narrow and elevated, as if the entire world dropped away beneath it, leaving only an endless drop on either side. Not even when the engine began humming a low, guttural sound that resembled growling. Then, the GPS spoke again. Destination reached. The car stopped itself. I hadn't pressed the brake. We were in front of a building Dot, no address. No signs Dot, just a single door. Black, wide, breathing. The woman in the front seat turned to me, but she didn't. Speak Dot, she only nodded Dot and vanished. I was alone again, but I wasn't, not really. I could feel them watching from every direction, those who had taken the route before me, those who never returned. Or maybe, those who never left. The door in front of the car opened on its own. I stepped out, knees weak, mouth dry, lungs barely functioning. The ground beneath me was solid, but wrong. It didn't echo, didn't give, didn't exist the way it should. I walked forward Dot inside. The building was impossibly vast. A lobby with a floor that shimmered like water, but made no sound when I stepped on it. Dot walls, pulsing with faint whispers. Directly ahead, a long hallway lined with doors, each one slightly ajar, each one exhaling something invisible, but heavy. A sign above, read only. Rooms for the forgotten. I walked slowly, my fingers grazing the walls. They felt like skin warm and moist, reacting to my touch. The first door on my right opened completely. Inside, a replica of my college dorm room, exact, even down to the torn poster and the broken lamp I'd thrown away. But someone was inside. Me. Younger. Crying. I closed the door. The second room, my childhood bedroom, a version from a memory I didn't want. The night my parents fought, and I hid under the bed. Shut it faster. Each room was a moment I had locked away, buried, refused to confront. And now they were here. Waiting. The hallway stretched further. The more I walked. I started running, trying to reach the end, but it kept moving, like the building didn't want me to leave. Then finally, a light ahead. I ran toward it, a door different from the rest, larger, iron, closed completely. No handle, only a slit in the center. And from it, a whisper. You've come far. I didn't reply. The whisper continued. Do you remember the night? I didn't want to, but it pulled the memory from me. Anyway, the night of the accident, the screaming, the body, the blood on my hands. I never told anyone, never looked back. Just drove. And the voices in the back seat never stopped. You created this road, the voice said. Every turn, every silence, every scream. What is this place? I finally asked. A map of what you buried. The slit widened into a mouth. Wide, toothless, endless. Do you want to leave? It asked. I nodded. Double quotes. Then give up your seat. What? The driver's seat. Give it up. Let someone else take control. Let the road take you. I can't. You already did. And with that, the floor beneath me opened. I fell down through layers of moments, memories, mistakes, until I landed back in the driver's seat. The engine off. Radio silent. The car was parked in front of my apartment. Building. Morning light broke through the clouds. Normal. Quiet. Too quiet. The GPS was blank. The woman was gone. I was alone. Or so I thought. Until I looked in the rear view mirror. And saw three shadows in the back seat. Watching. Silent. Smiling. I didn't turn around. I didn't breathe. I just sat there. Frozen. Because I knew they weren't going anywhere. And neither was I. I used to think the roads were safest when they were empty. No traffic, no noise, no distractions. Just me, the engine humming low, and the glowing thread of asphalt ahead. That was before I took the ride that made me question everything I believed. About the night and myself. It was 3 a.m. on a Thursday. The kind of cold that creeps through your vents, even when the heat's cranked. I was finishing what I thought would be my last ride. A girl named Melissa, drunk and weepy, dropped off at a condo near the edge of town. I tapped complete and waited a few seconds, watching the app. Nothing. Then, PINGA, new ride. No profile picture, no rating. The name was just a single letter E. Pickup. Edge of Route 47. Just outside of the industrial district. A place I usually avoided. Something about it always felt unfinished. Like the city gave up trying to tame that stretch of land. I hesitated. My gut nudged me to ignore it. But I was $10 shy of my nightly goal and figured one last ride wouldn't kill me. Spoiler, it nearly did. I followed the route. Past the warehouse with busted windows. Past the old train yard, long abandoned. The GPS turned glitchy. It kept rerouting, spinning the map, then freezing. I switched to manual. I knew the area well enough. Or I thought I did. I pulled up to a gravel turnout surrounded by thick trees and fog, hanging low like smoke. There was no house, no building, just a lamppost flickering like it had a bad memory, and a figure standing beneath it, not tall, still, face hidden in shadow. They didn't move when I pulled up. I waited, engine idling. I flicked my high beams, nothing. Just more fog and silence. My pulse thudded in my ears. Then the figure moved, slowly, deliberately. They walked toward my car with a limp or a drag to their step, like one leg didn't fully belong. As they neared, the dome light kicked in, and I could see just enough to wish I hadn't got. It was a woman, barefoot, wearing what looked like a hospital gown. Her hair was wet slicked back, like she'd just come out of a lake. Her eyes didn't blink, just stared straight ahead, like I was a window, and she was looking through me. She opened the back door and sat down without a word. The smell hit me first. Damp earth, rust, and something like old blood. I swallowed, forcing a smile into my voice. Where to? Silence. I looked at the app. The destination field was blank. No drop-off location, miss. You need to enter a destination, or I can't. Start the ride. She leaned forward, and I felt her breath on my neck. Just drive. My stomach tightened. I should have made up an excuse. Said the system was down. But her voice, it wasn't threatening. Just hollow, empty, like an echo that had been waiting years to be heard. So I drove. The fog swallowed us quickly. Roads I'd driven 100 times felt unfamiliar. The trees leaned too close. The silence in the car grew thick. No music, no small talk. Just tires on wet pavement, and her soft breathing behind me got every now and then. I checked the mirror. She never looked at me, just stared out the window, murmuring things too low to catch Dot about 15 minutes in. I heard her whisper something that chilled me more than the cold ever could. He used to take me here. I didn't respond. My grip on the wheel tightened. Where's that? I asked before I could stop myself. Dot. She didn't answer. Instead, she began humming. A slow, tuneless hum that made the hairs on my arms rise. It wasn't a song, it was a sound of memory, of something broken being repeated again and again, until it no longer meant anything. Made a left onto a road that wasn't on my map. Narrow, with ditches on both sides. My headlights flickered, then stabilized. Dot. She hummed louder. I reached a fork. No signs. No guidance. Left or right? I asked, trying to sound normal. Dot. She whispered. He went left. I didn't. I turned right. A minute later, my rearview mirror fogged up. Not from moisture, from breath. I wiped it with the back of my hand and saw a second figure in the seat beside her. I slammed the brakes. When I turned around, she was alone, still facing the window. Still humming. Dot. My heart pounded. I forced a laugh. Sorry, thought I saw a deer. She didn't acknowledge it. I started driving again, faster this time. The road narrowed until branches scraped the sides of the car. Then a scream, short, piercing. From behind me, I swerved. What the hell? Are you okay? She was staring at me now, eyes wide. Not angry, not afraid, just present. Don't. Stop here, she said softly. Dot. Too late. The engine died. The lights cut out. Dot. Everything went black. I tried the ignition. Nothing. I grabbed my phone. Dead. Not low battery. Dash. Dead. Dot. Silence. Dot. Then a knock on the passenger window. Dot. My breath caught. There was someone outside. I turned slowly. Dot. No one. Dot. Then another knock on the driver's side. Still no one. I turned to the back seat. She was gone. The door was still closed, but she was gone. In her place was a photograph. Dot. Old, torn at the edges, of me. Dot. As a child, standing beside a man I didn't recognize. And her. Dot. The woman in the hospital gown. Dot. But younger, and smiling. I drove in silence for what felt like hours. The city long gone behind me, swallowed by the void of night and fog. My phone had gone dark. No GPS, no signal, just a frozen map that still showed the last location where I picked up my passenger, if I could even call him that. The air inside the car was colder now, too cold for the heater to make a difference. I could see my breath fogging up in front of me, even though the windows were all rolled up. He hadn't spoken another word since that first sentence. You're not supposed to be here. It replayed in my head like a scratched record, looping and warping with each mental echo. I didn't dare look back. I didn't even check the mirror. I just kept my hands locked on the wheel, knuckles white, eyes fixed on the winding, unfamiliar road that stretched on like it had no end dot. Then I saw something or someone standing in the middle of the road. A figure, pale and motionless, barely distinguishable from the mist that hugged the earth. I slammed the brakes. The tires screeched, but didn't grip. The car skidded and spun, landing sideways on the road with a dull thud against something I didn't see. My heart was thundering, blood rushing so loud I couldn't hear anything else. When I finally opened my eyes, the road was empty. No figure, no fog, just the sound of the engine still humming and my hands trembling. I turned to finally confront the passenger, but the back seat was empty. No one. I opened the door and stepped out, half expecting some sick joke or hidden camera crew to leap out from the trees. Nothing, just the woods, silent and still, like they were waiting for something. I checked the back seat again, this time moving things around. Nothing. No sign anyone had ever been there. No footprints. No scent. Just a lingering cold and the dread that had now planted itself in my spine. I got back in the car, tried to turn it around, but the wheels spun in place. The road was damp, maybe frozen. I cursed under my breath, shifting into reverse, when my headlights caught something. A door dot there, on the side of the road where no buildings had stood moments ago, was a small wooden structure. Not quite a shed, not a cabin either. Just a door standing alone, framed by rotting wood and rusted hinges. There was no wall around it. No house. Just a door, and it was open, slightly ajar. I don't know why I got out. I don't know why my legs moved without permission. I should have stayed in the car. I should have floored it. But something about that door, it pulled me. Not curiosity, not fear. It was something deeper, like recognition. I walked toward it. Each step felt heavier, like the gravity around that thing had shifted, warping the air. My ears started ringing. Not loud, but constant. I reached the door and placed my hand on the edge. It was warm, unnaturally warm, like skin. I pulled it open just a bit more, and the creak echoed so loud it sounded like it cracked the trees. Beyond the door was not the other side of the road. It wasn't anything that should exist, but it was a hallway. Long, flickering lights, peeling wallpaper, a faint scent of antiseptic mixed with something rotten. Ah, hospital, or what remained of one. I stepped through without thinking. As soon as I crossed, the door vanished behind me. Gone, no trace. Just a hallway now stretching in both directions, lined with doors that all looked the same. Metal numbers. Some crooked, some scratched off. The walls whispered. Not voices, whispers. Like thoughts that didn't belong to me. I moved forward, drawn toward a faint beeping sound. Steady, mechanical, like a heart monitor. 312. That's where the sound came from. The door was ajar, just like the one outside. I pushed it open slowly. The room was empty, except for a single bed. On it lay someone, something under the sheets. The monitor beeped steadily beside it, though nothing was connected. The sheets rose and fell as if someone was breathing beneath them. I stepped closer. Help me. The voice came from under the sheets. I backed away. "I've been waiting," it said again, more clearly now. I turned and ran. Out the door, down the hall, passing room after room. I didn't look inside any of them. I didn't want to know. I reached a staircase and bolted down, skipping steps, my foot catching once, tumbling, scraping my arms on the concrete. I hit the bottom hard, and when I looked up, the hallway in front of me had changed. It was the inside of my own apartment. Building. My hallway. Same cracked tiles. Same overhead lights that flickered at the same spot near Unit 4B. I stood slowly. My legs ached. My palms were scraped, bleeding lightly. This couldn't be real. I turned to go back up the stairs, but there were no stairs anymore. Just a wall. I moved down the hallway toward my apartment door. It was closed, locked. I reached for my keys. They were gone. My pockets were empty. Then I saw it light under the door, shadows moving behind the frosted glass. Someone was inside. I knocked. No answer. I knocked harder. The door creaked open on its own. Inside was not my apartment. It was that hallway again. Hospital tiles. That same antiseptic in decay. And the whispers were louder now. "You opened the door. You let it in. You're the driver." I turned and ran again, but the door behind me slammed shut. I was trapped. I don't know how long I've been running through these halls. They twist, fold, change direction. I found another staircase, but it led nowhere. I tried to leave notes on the wall with my blood. They vanished. I found a mirror once. Looked inside. It wasn't me. It was the man from the back seat. He smiled, and I screamed. I don't think this is about a passenger anymore. I think I picked up something that night, something that needed a way in, and I gave it a ride. Now I'm stuck driving through its memories, through its prison, through my own mind. Or maybe none of this is real. Maybe I never left the car. Maybe I crashed on that road, and this is the coma dream of a dying brain. But then again, why did I find a recent receipt from that hospital on my dashboard when I woke up this morning? And why did it have my signature? The hallway was quiet, but not silent. It breathed, not literally, but with that same rhythm, the hum of unseen machinery, the soft flicker of overhead lights, the distant echo of movement that always seemed to come from behind you, no matter which way you turned. I moved through it like I was, drifting through someone else's dream, a dream that had gone on too long, curdled into a nightmare. I found doors that wouldn't open. Some had nameplates that looked familiar. My high school teacher, a girl I dated once, my old neighbor, all names I hadn't thought of in years. But there they were, engraved in tarnished brass. I didn't dare knock at one point. I saw someone walking toward me down the corridor. A man in a hospital gown, his back arched wrong, his arms too long, his mouth open as if mid-scream, but making no sound. He didn't blink. I turned and ran in the other direction. When I looked back, he was gone. Not vanished, just never there at all. Eventually, I stopped at a door that looked newer than the rest. No name, just a keypad. I touched it, and it beeped. Then it spoke. My voice. Access granted. The door opened, revealing a dark room lit only by screens, monitors, dozens of them, all showing footage of cars driving. Some parked, some empty, some with drivers. All Uber cars. And in every screen, in every vehicle, there was someone in the backseat. The same someone. His eyes met mine in every feed, as if he knew I was watching, as if this room was built for me. I backed away, and the monitors flickered, scrambled, and turned off one by one. The room went dark. I turned to leave. The hallway was gone. Just a mirror now. large, floor to ceiling. I approached it slowly, heart pounding. I didn't want to look, but I had to. My reflection stared back, but something was wrong. The smile. I wasn't smiling, but he was. My reflection, grinning, slow, sinister. Then it raised its hand. I didn't. It knocked 3 times, and the glass cracked. I ran. I don't remember the path anymore, only the turns, the stairs that led to nowhere, the looping hallways. I stopped, recognizing things. Or maybe they just stopped obeying the rules. When I finally collapsed, exhausted and breathless, I found myself back at the car, my real car, or what looked like it, parked on the roadside, headlights still on. I got in, locked the doors, turned the key. It started. I laughed out loud. I cried. Relief flooded me like a drug. I was out. Somehow, I was out. Then I looked in the rearview mirror. He was there, smiling, just like in the mirror. You gave me a ride, he said, voice like static. Now let me show you where we're going. The car started driving itself. My hands were on the wheel, but they didn't move. My feet didn't touch the pedals. The road stretched ahead, unfamiliar, yet inevitable. I looked at the dashboard. No gas indicator, no speedometer, just a screen. It said, destination, home. I wanted to scream, to jump out, but I couldn't. My body wouldn't obey, like I was watching myself from the inside. And then I remembered something I wish I hadn't. Before the last ride, before the ping at 3 a.m., I had received a message. Just a few words. Do not accept this ride. I thought it was spam. Deleted it. But it was signed by me, my own name. I think I died on that road. Or maybe I opened a door I wasn't supposed to. Gave something a ride it had waited lifetimes to take. Now, I drive forever. Each night, a new destination. Each ride, a new memory to trap. I see others sometimes. Other drivers. Other passengers. They don't look well. Some scream and vanish. Others sit quietly, eyes empty. We all picked him up, and now he picks us. I didn't sleep that day. I parked the car outside my building and sat behind the wheel for what felt like hours, staring at the front door. The sun rose, the world moved on, but I was stuck. My mind kept playing it over and over again. The silent mirror, the screens, the grin that didn't belong to me. When I finally stepped out, my legs shook. Every shadow seemed too sharp. Every sound felt directed at me. I made it to my apartment, locked every door, unplugged the TV, covered the mirrors, and I waited. I don't remember eating. I don't remember what day it was. I kept expecting a knock, a message, a sign that he was still following me. But nothing came. Not at first. It was the silence that broke me. On the third day, I think, I turned my phone back on. It lit up immediately. One missed ride. Request him. 3 o'clock, a .m. No passenger name. Dropped the phone. It vibrated. A new message. Let's go again. My heart raced. I didn't reply. Didn't open the app. I turned the phone off again and threw it into the freezer. Like that would somehow stop him. But something had already shifted. Started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. A flicker in the mirror. A reflection in a window that didn't belong to me. I'd hear footsteps when I was alone. Voices whispering my name behind closed doors. I called my friend Tom. Told him I wasn't okay. He came over that evening. Brought food, beer, even his dog. I tried to explain, but how do you explain a ghost that exists inside an app? A thing that wears your voice, your face? He listened, laughed a bit, thought I was just sleep deprived. We played some old games to distract. Me, Then his phone buzzed. He looked down and frowned. Huh, that's weird. What? Got a ride request. Says it's from me. My blood turned to ice. Tom, I said slowly, don't accept it. He laughed. Dude, it's just a glitch. But I knew. I knew it wasn't. He clicked. Except before I could stop him, and the lights went out just for a second. Long enough for everything to shift. When they came back on, Tom was still there. But his eyes, he didn't blink. Didn't speak. His dog whined and backed into the corner. Tom? I whispered. He smiled, slowly. Let's go, he said. But his voice wasn't his. I ran. Out the door. Down the hall. I didn't care what the neighbors thought. I spent the night at a cheap motel. Didn't sleep. Didn't turn off the lights. When I came back the next morning, Tom was gone. No sign of him. His car, his dog, even the food wrappers had vanished. Like he'd never been there. I filed a missing person report. The officer asked when I'd last seen him. Last night, I said. He blinked. Double quotes, sir. Tom Lewis was reported. Missing 2 weeks ago. Are you sure you're not confused? I froze. 2 weeks? No, that couldn't be right. I checked my phone. No calls. No messages. No ride request. Like none of it happened. But I remembered. And the mirror in the hallway, the eerie, one I always avoided, showed two shadows now. Mine. And his. I stopped driving, deleted the apps, trashed the phone, switched apartments, changed cities. I even cut my hair and started going by my middle name. Anything to create distance between me and whatever that was. But even distance doesn't erase memory. And memory, when infected, mutates every night. I dream of roads that didn't exist. Pings in the dead of night from faceless profiles. My dashboard screen flickering, displaying rides I didn't accept, taking me to places I'd never been. And always that same smile in the rear view. One night, about a month later, I got a letter. No return address. Handwritten. You left someone behind. Inside was a photo. My car, parked in the motel lot, with something in the backseat. I stared at it for hours. You could barely see the outline, but it was there. Human-shaped. Bent. Wrong. I burned the photo. But fire doesn't erase truth. I started seeing people on the street with blank faces. Their mouths too wide, their eyes too still. People would bump into me and whisper, "It's your turn." A child tugged on my sleeve at the grocery store and asked if I remembered the ride. Moved again. Rural. Quiet. No neighbors. I thought I could live simply. Just exist. Just survive. And for a while, I did. But survival isn't peace. It's just delay. It started again with a knock. 3. Sharp raps at exactly 3 a.m. I didn't open the door. Didn't need to. Because a phone was ringing inside my kitchen drawer. A phone I hadn't owned in months. I opened the drawer. There it was. My old phone. Screen cracked. Battery long dead. And yet it glowed. One new message. Outside. I didn't check the window. I didn't move. I just sat down at the table, and the door creaked open on its own. Someone stepped inside. Bare feet. Wet floor. They walked up behind me and whispered in my ear. Let's go. I turned slowly. It was me. Same face. Same clothes. But the eyes were gone. Just hollow sockets, black and dripping. Don't fight it, he said. You already said yes. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the ride receipt. Fare. One life destination. Frogoteni ran again. But this time, the house didn't have doors. The hallway stretched endlessly, the wallpaper peeling like skin. Every step I took, the lights flickered behind me. I saw doors labeled with names I knew. Tom, my mom, even myself. I opened none of them. I found the front door eventually, but outside wasn't the street. It was a road, a familiar one. The one from that night. The forest lined both sides. My car sat in the center, empty, waiting. The engine was running, and the mirror reflected two people already sitting inside. They waved. I tried to scream, but no sound came. I blinked, and I was behind. The wheel again, like nothing ever happened, except it had my phone lit up one last ride. Your passenger is waiting. I turned off the engine, stepped out, but the road didn't end. It looped back into itself. No matter where I turned, I arrived at the same stretch. I was trapped in a ride with no destination, Doc, and now. So are you? You read this. That's all it takes. I don't know when it will come, but one day your phone will buzz, the app will open on its own, and your ride will start. Whether you want it or not, I'm sorry, but the road never ends.